Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll go ahead and call this regular commission meeting of September 28th, just checking the date there, to order. I'd like to begin with an approval of the agenda as it has been published. I have no changes. Mike, we got the changes into the actual agenda, correct? Or is there something I'm supposed to add at the end? I know we got a last minute email. I see 16 and 17 on mine. Was what was published?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. That was what is published. I think it's a bit of a miscommunication with staff that really should be one item.
One item.
We're going to have two discussion points on that one item.
Okay, then I'll make one change to the published agenda, and we will merge items 16 and 17 into one conversation about Alachua County's charter amendment. That will be the only change to the published agenda. Do I have a motion to approve that agenda? I have a motion from Commissioner Norfleet, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Are there any questions or comments from the dais on the published agenda? Hearing none. Dallas, if you would put our phone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still doing a hybrid Zoom. So some of you may be watching us through Zoom. Some of you may be watching us on YouTube. Some of you are here live with us tonight. For those of you watching on YouTube, you're about 30 seconds behind our live Zoom feed. So we want to make sure that we give an opportunity for you to have plenty of time to call in with your questions and comments. Now would be an appropriate time to call in. If you think that something was supposed to be on tonight's agenda and it's not there, or we've got something you think is incorrect that's on the published agenda, all you need to do to let us know is dial the phone number that's on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. Simply click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to make a comment or pose a question. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. Again, the motion on the floor is approval of the agenda as it was published. Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand raised? Okay, hearing none, we'll go back to the commission for a roll call vote. And we'll begin with Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth. Aye. Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
And Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passed unanimously. I'd like to recognize the absence of Commissioner Martin. He will be joining us soon. He's just having a little bit of difficulty getting in. Okay, we'd like to welcome for tonight's invocation Pastor Rocky McKinley from Destiny Community Church, one of the founding members of the Newberry Ministerial Association, which unfortunately needed to postpone the prayer on the square that was scheduled for yesterday. It is now scheduled for next Sunday, which is October the 4th. October the 4th. So please join us next Sunday on the prayer on the square, October the 4th at 6 p.m. Pastor Rocky, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight with grateful hearts. Lord, we look around our community and we see growth. We thank you for that. We thank you for economic growth. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for new people in our community. And we pray, Lord, that they feel welcome here. Lord, we look around and we see the new businesses that are popping up. And Lord, we know that that is nothing short of a miracle from your hand. And we thank you for that. As Paul instructed young Timothy in 1 Timothy 2:2, you called us, Lord, to pray for governing authorities, and we do that right now. Lord, I pray for this commission, our mayor. Lord, I pray for the city staff, and Lord, I just pray that you would just guide them and lead them as they make decisions on behalf of our community. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. If you would please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again, Pastor Rocky. Okay, that will take us to presentations tonight. Our first presentation is in honor and recognition of White Cane Safety Awareness. I'd like to go ahead and read the proclamation into the record, and then we have some representatives of the Newberry Lions Club here that would like to address the commission. The best And most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. That is a quote from Helen Keller. Whereas the white cane, which every blind resident of our community and state has the right to carry, demonstrates and symbolizes the ability to achieve a full and independent life and the capacity to work productively in competitive employment. And whereas the white cane, by allowing every blind person to move freely and safely from place to place, makes it possible for the blind to fully participate in and contribute to our society and to live the lives they want. And whereas every resident should be aware that the law requires that motorists and cyclists exercise appropriate caution when approaching a blind person carrying a white cane. And whereas I urge civic and service organizations, schools, public bodies, and the media of public information to join in this observance with appropriate activities designed to promote continuing awareness of the significance of the white cane to blind persons. And now, therefore, I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, Florida, do hereby proclaim October 15th, 2020 as White Cane Awareness Day, and do call upon our schools, colleges, and universities to offer full opportunities for training to blind persons, upon employers and the public to utilize the available skills of competent blind persons, and to open new opportunities for the blind in our rapidly changing society. And upon all residents to recognize the white cane as a tool of independence for blind pedestrians on our streets. Signed this 28th day of September, in September 2020, and attested to by the Clerk of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, Ms. Judy S. Rice. Marlon, I believe you have some comments before I come down and present this proclamation to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. The Newberry Lions Club would like to thank you for the proclamation declaring October White Cane Safety Month. The white cane, as you know, is not just a tool that helps the visually impaired achieve independence, it's also a symbol of the blind in our society. In 1930, a Lions Club member watched a blind man trying to cross a busy street using a dark cane that was barely visible. The Lions Club decided to paint the cane white, and that same year in Peoria, Illinois, the first white cane law was passed. In 1931, the Lions Club International began a national program of promoting the use of white canes. And since 1964, we have celebrated October as White Cane Safety Month to increase awareness among the public about the use of the white cane by our visually impaired neighbors. Here in Newberry, your Newberry Lions Club has served the community and the visually impaired since 1943. And over the years, we have had many events and programs designed to raise money to assist the community and organizations that help the visually impaired. 100% of the money that is collected from the public is used to help the public. All Lions Club expenses, like our property taxes, insurance, or electric bills, are paid for by Lions Club members, and we never use any money that we collect from the public for those expenses. We are proud of this fact, and it's one of the reasons that the Lions Club International is the largest service club organization in the world. This past year, the Lions Club paid for a cataract surgery for 2 individuals in the area. We also provided eyeglasses to multiple people in our area. With many people losing employment and insurance due to the pandemic, we have found our services to be more needed than ever. We have been working through these challenging times to continue to serve the people in Newberry and will continue to do so. Once again, thank you for this proclamation.
Thank you, sir. Now, it'd be my honor. Lion, please come on up. Doing a great job right there. Get on your left side. You're right here on your left. I've got a proclamation for you right here, sir. Let me open that up. Okay, thank you. Just open it up real quick. There we go. Right in your hand. There we go. Wonderful. Everybody, big smile. Big smile. Behind the mouth. Wonderful. All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. All I've got in front of you, take that. Here's your mail. You want to go outside? It's not often you get escorted by a future county commissioner there, Lion Jack. All right. Lions Club is a wonderful organization here in the city of Newberry. They do a lot of great volunteer work. They help a lot of residents, and they are just in it for the community. So we appreciate each and every one of them. Next up tonight, we have our Public Power Week proclamation, which is another pleasure of mine to get to read in to the record. And I'd like to go ahead and start that now. Whereas the residents of the city of Newberry place a high value on local control over community services and therefore have chosen to operate a community-owned, locally controlled, not-for-profit electric utility. And as consumers and owners of the electric utility have a direct say in utility operations and policies. Whereas the city of Newberry's electric system is a valuable community asset that contributes substantially to the well-being of local residents through energy efficiency, customer service, environmental protection, economic development, and safety awareness. And whereas the city of Newberry's electric system is a dependable and trustworthy institution whose local operation provides many consumer protections and continues to make the community a better place in which to live and work. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the city of Newberry's electric system will continue to work to bring lower cost, safe, reliable energy to community homes and businesses, just as it has since 1910, the year when the utility was created to serve the residents of Newberry. And be it further proclaimed that I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby proclaim the week of October 4th through the 10th in the year 2020 be designated as Public Power Week. In order to honor the city of Newberry's electric system for its contributions to the community and to make its consumer owners, policymakers, and employees more aware of its contributions to their well-being and how it makes their lives powerful, and invite all Newberry residents, businesses, civic groups, government agencies, and other organizations to participate. In witness whereof, I have hereunder set my hand this 28th day of September in the year 2020, and it has been attested by the clerk of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, Ms. Judy S. Rice. Bill, would you come down? And I think our manager would like to say a few words. And Jacob, if you'd join us, I'll join you down there and we'll present this to you.
And no, Mr. Mayor, I was going to make an introduction, but these folks have been before our city commission plenty of times. No introduction is needed.
Well, we're not going to let them get off to that. They're going to have to say a few short words. Go right into this. Take that with our thanks, and please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mayor. And it's a delight to be here the week before Public Power Week. Now we got coming up. There we go, right on schedule. All right, wanted to quickly just go through the value that this utility brings to your community. Sometimes we forget how valuable this asset is. And Mayor kind of hit some of the highlights and work with Mike and Dallas and the team here. So if you go to the next slide, please. When you look at what the electric utility provides the city, it provides not only low-cost power and reliable service and actually faster restoration times than your neighboring utilities. Okay.
Is it green?
Oh,
Need to go green.
No,
Oh, there we
no
go.
mics.
I'm sorry. Not only faster restoration times, but you transfer quite a bit of the money back from the utility to the city to help fund operations, about $200,000, local impacts of employment and low-cost electricity. All those add up to great value to the city. So we go to the next slide, please. You have made some very good decisions here in using your local control that you have to actually invest in the new solar project that happened to be built right here in Newberry and Alachua County. And you'll be a part of that solar project when it comes on in 2023. That's your decision that you have because you're a local municipal utility. You made the decision to be involved or not. Our 31 cities, each one made their own decisions about being involved, and it so happened the project you're involved in is going to be built right here in the community.
We love that.
Yes, and I know there's a big announcement here recently. Also, you all are working on a big AMI system for your metering information, not only for the electric utility, but frankly, for the water utility, where there's some great things that you're going to get great customer information in that. Your rates here in Newberry have actually lower today than they were in 2006 on the electricity side. while the national average of prices has actually risen by 25%. So you've got control of that and you've worked hard. And I don't want to brag too much on Bill, but one of the things when he first came to FMPA, his big mission was to make sure to manage rates and bring it down. And there'll be a chart here that shows the success that he's had in helping lead that effort. You have a number of people who work here in town for the electric utility. That brings about $270,000 of value each year because those local salaries are plowed right back into the community. General transfer and better restoration. So Dallas, if we go to the next slide, please. We talked about the solar project, and I won't go through all the details other than to say this picture that was there is of the communities that were involved in the phase 2 solar project of which you're involved. That was at the signing ceremony back in December in Orlando. And one of those yellow dots in north central Florida, of course, is here in Alachua County. The red dots represent all the communities that chose to be involved in our solar projects, and Newberry being one of the red dots, and then obviously the solar project in the state as well. The neat thing about these community solar projects is it's solar electricity, which is about a third to fifth the cost if somebody puts solar panels on their home. So you got the lowest cost way to get solar, the most efficient way, and you provide the community and citizens with solar energy. So congratulations to you all for doing that. Next slide, please. At the same time, you all have stepped out and are working on an AMI project that Mike has been involved in. It's going to provide a number of opportunities for your customers, benefits and information and all that. One that probably isn't highlighted enough is actually almost real-time information to your water customers. If there's a leak, literally within a day's notice, you will know it on the system and be able to let customers know they've got a water leak somewhere in their house and save quite a bit of money. I know, Mike, that's a big win for the community. You piggyback the water, the electricity, and other things, and it's a win for your customers, and you all are walking down that route. Next slide, please. The biggest thing the electric utility frankly provides is low-cost electricity because in Florida, price of electricity matters to everybody. We use a lot for air conditioning and that. And this was Jackie, who was featured a few years ago by FMPA as a customer right here in Newberry. In keeping low-cost electricity means they have more money to spend on other necessities of food, medicine, et cetera, and all that. And if we jump to the next slide, Dallas. Your rates happen to be well below the cooperatives in the area, which turns into about $300,000 of savings throughout the community by having the low-cost power you have as opposed to the cooperatives here in the area. And that's quite a nice thing for your customers. And if you look at the next slide, a bit of historic perspective, the blue line represents a residential customer, 1,000 kilowatt hours, what their average monthly bill would be over the last 13, 14 years. You notice the blue line being Newberry, the cost has come down about 9% during that time. In fact, Bill, you stepped in, I think in about 2009 into FMPA when the numbers were at the highest, and now they're down quite a bit more than the 9%. And in fact, we haven't put 2020 on this, but the rates will be down probably another 6-7% in 2020 that will show up. All the while, the U.S. electricity prices have risen by 25%. So, and I want to commend Bill on two things that Bill and Mike were focused on, not only the overall rate, but making sure that all the cities tended to pay about the same thing. And over a 10-year period, we've worked to where the prices at the different cities in FMPA, they're about 5% closer than they were before, which is savings everybody around a half a cent a kilowatt hour. So well done to you all in making that work. We go to the next slide. Again, the savings that you have in the community is around 300,000 compared to the alternative co-ops in the area, which is a great savings. Not only that, though, if we go to the next slide, you think about it, there's 8.5 jobs that are tied to the electric utility. If you don't own the electricity utility, there's 8.5 people that are not employed here in town. Their economic impact in their community, their spend isn't here because those jobs aren't here. And so that's around $300,000 additional economic impact into the community. On top of that, if you go to the next slide, the utility also transfers
around $220,000 a year to the general fund to be used to help fund the city facilities. And again, another nice help in terms of running the budget here. So those are some of the financial numbers, but let's look at the reliability of service because it's actually quantifiable. During Hurricane Irma, your citizens here got their power. The red line shows you how many customers were not back in service a day into it at like 50%, 2 days into it like 30%, and so forth. The red line got power much faster than did the blue line back. In other words, if you look around the state, the municipals always outperform the larger utilities because guess what? Jamie and team, our only job is to take care of Newberry customers. They didn't have to go in the middle of nowhere to put customers back. You had a team here, and in fact, during Irma, you had a little bit of help brought in from the outside to help get customers back. This is true of almost every hurricane. The municipals get restoration back about 1 to 2 days faster. And if you go to the next slide, not only in the restoration, but just the day-to-day length of outage, average length of outage, duration, and all that, compared to your biggest neighbor, NIOU neighbor, Duke Energy, your outage times are half or less compared to what Duke and all the others have in the area here. So again, your customers benefit. They're out less, they're restored faster, rates are lower. It's a true asset to the community. So, and then finally, in terms of things the utility does, there's all kinds of things the utility does that helps out in terms of, providing services for Christmas and different decorations. It's usually the utility line people that are putting all the stuff up that are done. So again, quite an asset. Now I'll leave with, and it's all made it possible because you all make the decisions here locally. You control it. If you want an AMI system, you can do it. If you want to change the rates, you make that decision. I think you got a rate discussion coming up in a little bit as well. It's all in your control, which is you're responsive. People don't have to drive to Tallahassee or somewhere else to get that. They come right here. So congratulations on a well-run utility, great service, and it's just a pleasure to be here. And I take any questions if you have it.
Well, thank you, sir, for that presentation. It's always good to hear news like that. Does Dice have any questions? Nothing in virtual world? Nothing live? Well, thank you, sir, for making the trip. We appreciate all that your work and Bill's work and Mike's work has brought to the city of Newberry. We make the decisions, but you guys go give us good information so that we can make good decisions, and we do appreciate that.
Well, appreciate it. And on behalf of Susan Schuman and her team who helped pull the whole presentation together, working with Mike and Bill, thank you.
I knew Bill didn't put that PowerPoint together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, your commission likes to set aside a few minutes at the beginning of any commission meeting for public comment. These are generally the non-controversial type of comments. We set aside 2 minutes for every resident who wishes to address the board. If you have something that's not on the agenda that you want to let the commission know, you got a fundraiser going on, something happening in the community, now would be a great time to address them. All you need to do in order to do so is dial the phone number on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, simply click that little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. That'll let us know that you'd like to make a comment. You have something that you want to say. Again, we're about 30 seconds behind, so we'll start with our live members. Do you have any live members that want to make a comment? Come on down. Don't be shy.
Pastor Rocky McKinley, private citizen of Newberry, Florida. That's never going to get old. You know that, right?
I'm looking forward to that one day myself.
Not anytime soon. I'll make this quick. I do have 3 announcements. One about Prayer on the Square. Just want to reiterate, it was rained out this past Sunday, but we will be meeting this Sunday at Newberry at the Countryway Town Square, 6 p.m. There will be worship, live worship, and prayer. A lot of pastors and churches coming together for that. So join us this Sunday. The whole community is invited. I also wanted to make mention of Destiny Community Church. Our Serve Month is coming up in November. We are right now allowing people to submit projects as we do every year. If there's a neighbor's yard, maybe if there's a widow or someone that you know that needs some work done, if there's a city project, anything we can help paint, clean, pressure wash, whatever it is, we're looking for projects. And anybody can go to our website and submit those projects. That's destinycommunitychurch.org/serve. That's all you have to put in, destinycommunitychurch.org/serve. And you can submit projects there. And we're going to be weeding through those the next few weeks and then allowing our church members to sign up. We're not looking for monetary help or anything. We're just looking for projects that we can invest in, not asking for the community to pay for anything. Last announcement that I have is our church is going to be hosting Buy a Tree, Change a Life. It's a nonprofit organization, and it is the sale of Christmas trees, where we're going to have a number of corporate sponsors that are going to help us. 100% of the proceeds from this goes to missions, both across the street and around the world. 50% of what is raised is going to go to help orphans and children around the world. 50% is going to stay in our community to help children in our community. It's going to begin the day after Thanksgiving. So we will have trees set up on the property. You'll see a big tent there. We're going to have trees that we're going to be selling. It's going to be fun, a festive type atmosphere. One night we're going to do a Christmas movie on the lawn type thing for families with free popcorn and hot chocolate, that kind of stuff. We're looking at doing a Christmas karaoke night. And just, there's, like I said, it's just going to be a lot of games and a lot of fun for people just to bring their families and hopefully buy some Christmas trees. And there will be opportunities for you to pay too much for a Christmas tree. And if you do, every night, every day, I should say, we're going to have our Tree Topper Award that's going to be given out. So if you are the top giver that day, if you walk in and say, I just want to make an extra donation, your name's going to go into a pot for a final drawing at the end of the event. And so every day we're going to be awarding the Tree Topper Award. And, so we're excited about that. Buy a Tree, Change a Life. You're about to see a lot of advertisement about that. Again, this is not money that's going to our church. It's going to help children both in our community and around the world. You can go on Facebook and Buy a Tree, Change a Life in Newberry, and go ahead and like that page, and it'll keep you current with all of the events that's going to be happening at that. That's Buy a Tree, Change a Life in Newberry. That's all I have.
I hear Christmas karaoke and I immediately think Commissioner Farnsworth as the person who needs to take the mic that night and give a little carol to the town. I appreciate that. Sounds wonderful. There you go. See, I told you it would be great. I remember when Serve Day was a day, and now it is Serve Month. And we appreciate DCC so much for doing that every year. We've loved to watch it grow, and you can always tell. You can look around the town and see the impact that you guys make. So there's no project too big or too small for consideration. So put those ideas into their website, and they will sort through and see what they can do. Mr. New?
Mr. Mayor, I've learned about Serve Day at your anniversary, and it occurred to me that with the CDBG housing rehab program that we have now, one of the things that we don't do spectacularly in that program is finish the yards. And so I'm going to submit those programs to DCC. And if we can work it out so that they come into those projects and help clean up those yards, I'll probably try to get a staff team out there and see if we can't participate in Serve Day with DCC.
Sign me up. I'll be happy to join. Even if it's not that project, just tell me what day you need me. Remember, I got a bad back. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you so much. Any other citizen comments? Live citizen comments? Dallas, do we have anybody with a hand raised?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We have Janice 54, whose hand is raised.
Okay.
Please unmute yourself and make your comment.
Is that Janice?
Yes.
Janice, you're in the mix.
Yes. Yes, thank you. This is Janice Smith with Newberry Main Street. I'm the executive director. I just want to address the commission and thank you for remaining faithful to the city by finding a way to maintain the commission business without interruption during COVID. After the dedication, your support, and you continued to show our residents and businesses support. We at Newberry Main Street value the partnership that we have with you, and we're looking forward to what lies ahead for Newberry with the new exciting projects we're expect to see happen with the approval of the new budget. We also want to offer our talents and our passion for the economic vitality as you proceed with these new projects. Our design and promotion committees are excited about the development and implementation of the protection, preservation, and provision in the downtown district. And we ask that you remember us as we are your partnered resource along the way. During COVID, our businesses have managed to be creative to survive. Main Street volunteers were constantly checking on them, making sure that they had what they needed, and in some cases, helped secure grants, which allowed them to stay in business. We also helped make and deliver masks to healthcare workers, patients, and school employees over the summer as they made and delivered meals to our Newberry school children. And in August, right before school opened, we partnered with the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association to deliver 1,000 masks to the 3 schools in Newberry just before school started. Soon, you're going to see downtown dressed up for fall by Newberry Main Street Design Committee volunteers. And then October 8th, the Firehouse Gallery is going to reopen with a winter showcase. Their hours will be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. Our next membership meeting will be October 6th at 7 in the municipal building, and we're going to discuss and vote on some new projects that are going to enhance the historic district, and we want you to attend and would like to have some input from the commission. Our fall festival is planned to go forward November 21st along Seaboard Lane. And we're hoping all will come out and enjoy this event that's gone on for several years. We'll have craft vendors, food trucks, kids activities, shopping, a bit of everything. And we really want you to know that we value your commitment to the community, and we thank you for your time. So thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being a partner with Main Street, and we look forward to more of our partnerships together with you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Smith. We appreciate you and all that Main Street is doing. Sounds like we have some exciting things ahead of us in the upcoming weeks, and we do appreciate that. So thank you, ma'am. Okay, we have any other public with their hand raised, Dallas?
No, sir.
And final call inside the chamber for public comment. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Norfleet. Roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth. Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. And that will take us to public hearing and ordinances. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have the second reading of our budget that we've been working on all summer. So we have a script to make sure that we get it just right because we have lots of state laws that govern us in this process. So if tonight this seems a little formulaic, I just want you to understand that your commission has had 5 workshops over the course of the summer where they sat for many hours of going through the budget page by page in a very specific way. And this is the second reading as well. So with that, I'm going to begin the script so that we make sure we hit all of our points. So the City of Newberry Commission hereby convenes a public hearing on the City of Newberry's fiscal year 2020-21 final millage and final budget as required by Florida statutes, Chapter 129 and 200. Chapter 200 requires that a final hearing on the budget be preceded by a 2 to 5 day notice of that hearing. Chapter 129 requires that the commission advertise a summary of the budget. Here are the proofs of publication that such notices have been given. Let me go ahead and hold that up. It's a 2-pager, flip it around. A summary of the city budget has been provided for public review by means of advertisement in Alachua County Today, on Thursday, September 24th, year 2020, pursuant to these requirements. If anyone in our audience is here for the purpose of contesting their tax assessment, a petition for adjustment with the Value Adjustment Board should have been filed no later than 5 p.m. last Tuesday, September the 8th in the year 2020. The petition forms were available in the property appraiser's office. This evening, we will take a number of actions related to the final adoption of millage and budgets. I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to get a copy of the agenda so you may more easily follow the proceedings this evening. Citizen comment will be taken following the overview of the proposed budget by the city manager and director of finance and administration. The city attorney will now present an overview of the truth in millage legislation, followed by the city manager and director of finance and administration's explanations of the final and rolled back millage rates. City attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 1980, the Florida legislature adopted what is known as the Truth in Millage legislation, or TRIM as it's called. The goal of the legislation was to ensure that taxpayers were advised of the public hearings at which the local taxing authorities' budgets and millage rates are considered and adopted. Each year, the property appraiser completes an assessment of the value of all property and certifies to each taxing authority the taxable value of the property within its jurisdiction. Each taxing authority then notifies the property appraiser of its proposed millage rate, its rollback rate, and the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and the proposed budget. Once the property appraiser receives the information, he sends a notice by first class mail to every taxpayer on the assessment roll. The notice contains the information from the taxing authorities as to the proposed millage rate and the time and place of the public hearing. The notice sent to taxpayers is called the TRIM notice. The TRIM notice lists what the taxes were for the prior year, what the taxes will be if the proposed budget changes are made, and what the taxes will be if no budget changes are made. This information is listed for each taxing authority. The notice also lists all voted levies for debt service. The purpose of the TRIM notice is to provide taxpayers with sufficient basic information to enable them to participate in the public hearing process. And at this time, we'll hear from our city manager.
Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This final 2021 budget has been prepared amid the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic. We're still very much involved in the response to this emergency. We're working hard to continue providing services to our citizens, our residents, while at the same time keeping our community and staff safe. We are not letting our guard down as this virus is proving to be persistent and resilient. Nevertheless, life under this new normal goes on, and so does our budgeting process. The presentation of the budget for the Commission's consideration is one of my most important duties as your manager. As mandated by Florida law, I'm happy to present you with a balanced budget. During this year's budget process, the Commission held 5 budget workshops to publicly discuss the budget for fiscal year 2021. The budget presented before you tonight includes the following major items based upon our discussions. Continued funding for renewal and replacement of infrastructure with enhanced support and professional services to move forward future projects and funding mechanisms. Number 2, continued emphasis on public safety. Number 3, minor adjustments to electric and water rates of less than 1%, which allow us to continue to maintain our infrastructure and offer low competitive rates. Number 4, no increase in property tax rate. Number 5, no increase in the city's fire assessment rates. Number 6, no increase in solid waste or wastewater rates. And number 7, staff merit increases of up to 3.5%. This budget is funded at the proposed millage rate of 5.9999 mills, which represents the same tax level as set in previous years. The rate and budget set in this hearing tonight is what was advertised, and is the highest rate that the Commission can adopt. The Commission can lower the property tax rate at this final hearing if it chooses to do so. With the vision of the Commission at the forefront, your staff has spent an enormous amount of time weighing the available funding and the many competing needs for providing services to our community. I want to thank my department heads the other charter officers for being cognizant of the unique challenges we face and for presenting budgets that reflect the goals of reducing the burden on the city's taxpayers while providing the highest possible levels of service. Dallas Lee, our Director of Finance and Administration, will now lead us through a discussion of the millage and your budget.
Dallas?
One of the requirements of the truth in millage legislation is to provide information about why final millage rates are higher or lower than rolled back millage rates. The final millage rate for the city of Newberry is 5.9999 mils, which is 1.81% more than the rolled back rate of 5.8930 mils. The rolled back millage rate is defined as the millage rate which, exclusive of new construction, additions to structure, deletions, and property added to geographic boundary changes, will provide the same ad valorem tax revenue for each taxing authority as was levied during the prior year. The city of Newberry's final millage rate is the rate at which the city commission has, through due study and consideration, determined is needed to fund the municipal operations of the city of Newberry in the best interest, public health, and welfare of its citizens. The final millage rate is the same rate as was levied in the prior year. However, the trim process required that a notice of tax increase be advertised when the current year proposed aggregate millage rate exceeds the calculated aggregate rolled back millage rate. The aggregate millage rate, rolled back millage rate, is calculated by dividing the prior year estimated property tax revenue by the current year taxable property value divided by 1,000. The current year taxable value does not include new construction or annex values. For the 2020 tax year, the final millage rate of 5.99999 is 1.81% greater than the rolled back millage rate, which was of 5.8930, which resulted in an advertising and notice of tax increase. Mr. Mayor, the proposed 2020-2021 final budget summary for all funds of the city of Newberry summarizes all revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $15,485,206 and reserves brought forward in the amount of $10,308,085 for total revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $25,793,291 and appropriations in the amount of $15,204,416 with reserves appropriated in the amount of $10,588,874. Total appropriations of $25,793,291, which is a net decrease from the amended fiscal year 2020 budget, which was $25,993,323. The proposed general fund budget is $9,007,856. There are no changes from the tentatively adopted budget. The proposed special revenue funds budget is $415,000. There are no changes from the tentatively adopted budget. The proposed enterprise fund budget totals $15,456,142. There are no changes from the tentatively adopted budgets. The proposed internal service fund budgets total $914,293. There are no changes from the tentatively adopted budget. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on the changes that were made to your tentatively adopted budget presented to you on September 14th, 2020. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the budget at this time.
Okay, commissioners, now is an opportunity to ask staff any questions that you have. We'll have an opportunity for public comment coming up shortly. Any questions from the dais? I'm going to have to scroll through to see the other commissioners. No one's trying to get my attention. Okay. Now I'd like to invite citizens to comment on the fiscal year 2020-21 proposed final millage rates and proposed final budget. Please come forward to the podium or call into the meeting using the instructions that are going to be coming up on your screen momentarily if you want to address the commission. We do request that each speaker try to limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The hearing will continue until everyone who wishes to address the commission has had an opportunity to speak, and there is the phone number. So we will start with live members of the public wishing to address the commission on any of these topics before we go to our virtual citizens. Do we have anyone in the chamber who wants to address the commission?
Mr. Mayor, did you hear me that you're having some serious technical audio problems here?
I am, or is there an echo or feed or?
Bad.
when I
That's
see,
because Mike News' mic is still on.
no, what about the green light on the podium, Mike? Is it on?
It's red.
It's off. Everything's off, but has it been all meeting or is it new?
Mike he needs some, I don't know if y'all heard me, he needs to mute his mic.
Is your Zoom good?
Kind of sounds like you're in an echo chamber.
Mike, your Zoom is unmuted.
There we go.
Is that better?
A lot
All
better.
right. Well, we'll get on to the manager later. Any live members? I'm sorry, want to address? No? Okay, we'll go to virtual members. Again, if you want to address the commission, all you need to do is dial that phone number on your screen. Once you're in the meeting, click that hand symbol at the bottom. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We will come back to the dais. I will now close the public section of this public hearing and ask the Director of Finance to take us into the next section.
Mr. Mayor, the document before you included in your agenda packet is the City of Newberry fiscal year 2020-2021 budget summary, which includes the items that were described earlier. Any additional adjustments to this final budget and millage should be made by motion at this time.
Okay. Does the commission wish to make any adjustments to the final budget or millage? Hearing none. Okay.
Florida statute requires that the name of the taxing authority, the millage rate to be levied, the rolled back rate, and the percentage increase over the rolled back rate be publicly announced. Accordingly, the City of Newberry City Commission has determined that a proposed final millage rate of 5.9999 mils is necessary to fund the general municipal budget. The proposed final millage rate represents an increase of 1.81% from the rolled back rate of 5.8930 mils.
Mr. Attorney, would you please read the resolution by title only for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution and adopting the final rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes to the city of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2020, 2021. The appropriate motion would be to approve resolution 2020-44 as read by its title only.
Title read, do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Sure. Okay, are there any questions from the dais on the motion on the floor, which is for approval of resolution 2020-44? Commissioners that are virtual, just speak up if I'm not able to scroll fast enough to see you trying to get my attention. Okay. Okay, we have a motion, probably second on the floor. Dallas, would you put our telephone number up? Ladies and gentlemen, we are at item 7 on tonight's agenda, adopting a final millage. We have a motion, properly second on the floor, to approve resolution 2020-44. If you'd like to call in and make a comment on that motion, now would be the appropriate time to do so. All you need to do is dial the phone number on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, simply click that hand symbol at the bottom of the screen. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission. Please go ahead and dial that phone number now while I ask for live comments from the chamber. Any resident comments from the chamber? Okay. Got about 10 seconds. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we will go back for a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth, aye. Commissioner Clark, did we lose you? Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
And Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney, would you please read resolution 2020-45?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the city's budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. providing for the final appropriation of funds of the city of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2020 and ending September 30, 2021, approving a final general city budget, adopting the 5-year capital improvement program for the city, providing authority to the city management, prescribing the terms, conditions, and provisions with respect to supplemental appropriations and reappropriations, making a determination of public purpose, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to approve Resolution 2020-45 as read by title only.
Do I hear that motion? I got a motion from Commissioner Clark and a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Okay. Any questions or comments from the dais on Resolution 2020-45? Seeing nothing from the dais. Dallas, if you put our phone number back up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on item 8 on tonight's published agenda. It's Resolution 2020-45 relating to the city's budget. If you'd like to call in and make a comment or pose a question to the commission, now would be on that resolution. Now would be the appropriate time to do so. All you need to do is dial the phone number that's on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. Just click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. While you're dialing in, we'll go ahead and take public comment from the chamber. Do we have any residents here with us live who would like to comment on Resolution 2020-45? This is the city's overall budget. Okay, seeing none. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll go back to the dais. Roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. And I think now we are back to you, Dallas.
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, the next 2 items relate to your utilities. The City of Newberry establishes utility rates to generate revenue sufficient to meet its operating expenses. Staff evaluates utility rates annually during the budget process, and if warranted, recommends rates be adjusted. Staff utilizes models for developing its utility rates to forecast customers, electric and water consumption, wastewater generation, and anticipated expenses to determine whether rates will produce revenues which are sufficient to meet the expenses associated with providing water and wastewater and electric services to our residents. Many of the city's costs to provide these services are fixed or have increased, such as personnel services, fuel, repairs, etc. At the City Commission's utility budget workshop, city staff presented these proposed changes, and the City Commission gave consensus to include those rates in the budget. These rates were approved unanimously upon first reading on September 14, 2020. Water rates are proposed to be adjusted by 1.79% in the consumption charge with no change in the residential customer charge for an average residential impact of 25 cents per month. This rate keeps the city's rates as the lowest rates in the area. These rate increases also work towards the Commission's goal of operating a self-sustaining utility enterprise. In accordance with the City Commission's policy, this rate increase is commensurate with the Public Service Commission's published Consumer Price Index for water and wastewater of 1.79%. Residential electric rates are proposed to be adjusted by 1% for an average residential impact of $1 per month. Non-residential rates are proposed to be adjusted in a similar fashion. No rate change is proposed for either solid waste or wastewater charges. Even after these proposed rate changes, the city will offer competitive low rates when compared with other utilities in our area. Customers were properly notified in their August bills. The city will need to file additional reports with the Public Service Commission, PSC, to inform them of the proposed rate changes. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Dallas. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Okay. Mr. Attorney, would you please read ordinance 2020-24 into the record for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida pertaining to electric utility services in the city of Newberry to amend and revise section 98-63, subsections 1, 2, 3, and 8 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry pertaining to the energy charge, providing for codification of the same. Appropriate motion is to adopt ordinance 2020-24 upon second reading as read by title only.
Thank you, Rich. Do I hear that motion from the dais? Come on, Commissioner Farnsworth. I was going to give this one to you. I got a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Do I hear a second? I see a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any questions or comments from the dais on the motion on the floor, which is to adopt ordinance 2020-24? Okay, seeing nothing from the dais. Dallas, if you put our telephone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on item 9 of tonight's published agenda. This is establishing our electric rates. We have a motion properly second on the floor to approve on second reading ordinance 2020-24. If you'd like to call in and address the commission on this ordinance, you now have the opportunity to do so. You just need to dial that phone number on your screen. Once we have you into the meeting, you'll see that little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. All you need to do is click it. That will let us know that you'd like to address the board. We'll make sure that you have the opportunity to do so. While you are calling in, we'll go to our live chamber audience and see if you have any questions or comments on ordinance 2020-24. Seeing nothing public. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
You would take us back to the dais for a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark. I'm sorry, Commissioner Clark, if you said it, I missed it. Gotcha. Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to Mr. Attorney. Would you please read ordinance 2020-25?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 2020-25, amending the prior established rates and amending sections 98-154 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2019-23. The appropriate motion is to adopt ordinance 2020-25 upon second reading as read by title only.
Okay, do I hear that motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Norfleet. Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor from the dais? Seeing none. Dallas, if you would put our telephone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at item 10 of tonight's published agenda. This is the second reading of ordinance 2020-25. If you'd like to call in and address the commission on this ordinance, all you need to do so is dial the number on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. All you need to do is click that symbol. That will let us know that you'd like to address the commission on ordinance 2020-25. While you're dialing in, we're going to check in with our live residents in the chamber to see if they have any questions or comments on this ordinance. Seeing none. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, take us back to the commission for a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. And Dallas, do you have any closing comments and questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I just, as always, want to thank the city staff, all the other department heads, the mayor and commission, the city clerk, city attorney, and city manager for their leadership on this budget process. It was an interesting year. We decided in January to change how we do budget and move to a new budgeting software, which turned out to be interesting when everybody moved to work from home. And then, as the commission knows, we held 5 budget workshops virtually. So again, I would just want to thank everybody for working with us through this process, and I think you've adopted a good budget. Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During my script, I had an opportunity to express appreciation. But as we all know, that was scripted. And I'd like to use just a moment to share some thoughts with the commission and the community about the 2021 budgeting process. As Dallas mentioned, it was a challenging year. It's the first time in my career that revenue streams related to tourism were negatively impacted. In the past, we've seen property tax revenue streams decrease. This one was looking at different types of revenue streams. We couldn't get confirmation, so it kept us in a state of flux for almost the entire budget season. But it highlighted the significance of a decision made by this commission some 5 or 6 years ago, right after I started, that we were going to diversify our revenue streams. And so as much of as a challenge as it was, it could have been significantly more of a challenge for our residents. So I do appreciate the leadership that was exhibited by the commission and the latitude that they gave us as we rearranged meetings because we didn't have concrete data, and the commission was patient with us, and they gave us clear direction, and there was understanding with the challenges that we were undertaking as staff. And so I appreciate that leadership. As Dallas mentioned, our department heads did a fantastic job of understanding where we were, that we had about $180,000 in new revenue this year from property taxes. And coincidentally, our law enforcement contract was going to increase just slightly more than $180,000. So we were starting at break even, and then we were seeing a decline in revenue streams from a couple of our sources. So our department heads were asked to live on a lean budget this year, and they came back. Everybody got a little something, but no one got nearly as much as they felt like they needed to move our level of service further. I appreciate them for understanding. And finally, I just would point out that what you all know, that Dallas is, he's the best at what he does. He excels in this area of putting our budget together. He gives great feedback. He has a keen understanding of what the commission is looking for. So he never gets out in left field. Sometimes I do, but he pulls me back in. He reminds me of what the commission and the community are looking for, and works very hard to provide a balanced budget every year that's keeping in mind that we are trying to be as conservative as we can be with our tax dollars. So I appreciate the process. Once again, we learned from it and look forward to next year serving our citizens better.
Well, thank you for those comments, both Dallas and Manager New. I certainly want to add my thanks to you, Mr. New, and to all of your staff for the work that you guys put in to present this to us. It is intensely complicated, and you guys presented it in a way that anyone tuning in and watching from start to finish can understand. This certainly was a strange year, a weird year. And as anyone who's watched this commission for the past few years knows that this is where the rubber meets the road. If it doesn't make it in budget year, it doesn't happen. We don't do mid-year changes. We don't put things in out of order. So for all of the residents who have participated, who have called in, who have reached out to us and let us know what they think, thank you for that participation. And to the commission, I just want to say thank you. This can be a really tough process when you've got a lot of folks with a lot of different ideas and wanting to go in a lot of different directions. And you guys are flexible on many points, and you are rigid on others, mainly when it comes to not increasing and making sure that we keep it as fiscally conservative as we can. But staff and commission and residents, this is a tripart partnership, and I think everybody works really hard to get the best product that we can. And I believe that the staff has accomplished that this year. So thank you all. And I think that completes the second reading of this year's budget. And so we have achieved it. Well done, Dallas. Thank you, sir. The city will not enter into an apocalypse now, a financial apocalypse. And that will take us to item 11 on tonight's agenda, which is a right-of-way policy, right-of-way policy use policy and manual. And Mike, are you going to take us through that? Go right ahead, sir. You have the floor. This is a second reading as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you indicated, this is the second reading of an ordinance. As Jamie Jones, our Director of Utilities and Public Works, explained last time, the city has, for at least several years, had a process for resident work in our public right-of-ways, but it was adopted by resolution. Made it very cumbersome. It wasn't readily available to our residents that might be looking in Muni Code, and it was completely inconsistent with how the rest of the world does it. If you're a utility contractor that rolls into Newberry and wants to know what the rules of engagement are for working in our right-of-ways, you would look to our right-of-way use ordinance, and they could never find it. So some time ago, Jamie recognized that we needed to cure this and has put together a well thought out ordinance that kind of covers A to Z how right-of-way use works within the city of Newberry. This was presented to the commission on September the 14th. Was passed unanimously on first reading. And if I'm available for questions, if the commission has any.
Okay, as we've said, this is the second reading. We had a fairly extensive presentation on it the first time around. Does any commissioner have any questions they thought of since then? And while you're thinking of that, Rich, go ahead and read the ordinance into the record for us, please.
Thank you. I didn't want to be left out of the process. I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-16, an ordinance pertaining to right-of-way use permits within the city of Newberry, Florida, amending Chapter 82 of the City of Ordinances of the City of Newberry to create Article 3 related to use of public rights-of-way, authorizing city staff to adopt further policies and procedures for the use of public rights-of-way and establishing applicable fees, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion would be to pass ordinance number 2020-16 upon second reading as read by title only.
Okay, do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, second from Commissioner Norfleet. Now, did we come up with any of those questions on second reading? Okay. Hearing none. Dallas, would you put our phone number back up? Ladies and gentlemen, we are on item 11. This is the right-of-way policy, use policy manual. And this is the second reading. It's kind of an administrative function that's going to allow us to operate a little more efficiently inside of the city of Newberry. And if you have any questions on it, all you need to do is dial that phone number on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. Simply click that hand symbol. Will let us know that you would like to address the commission. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. We have just a few more seconds before our YouTube folks are caught up live with us. So we'll go to our live residents. Do we have any questions or comments from residents here in the chamber with us tonight? Seeing none. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll go back to the commission for a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth, Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Clark. I heard an aye in the background. Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 12, which is another second reading. Mike, I think you're going to take us through water and wastewater system development charge ordinances revision, and then we'll go straight to Rich to read in ordinance 2020-23.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item also is a second reading. It was approved unanimously by the City Commission on first reading. During that meeting, Utility Director Tammy Jones set the stage with the background. The way that we calculate our water and wastewater capacity charges has been for non-residential has been done in a non-conventional manner, and it has led to confusion. You could have serious debate about several different ways for community for determining capacity charges, and Jamie determined that the most consistent, the least confusing way to address it would be based strictly on meter size. It follows a precedent set by most of the communities that we work with in North Central Florida that we're aware of. And as it turns out, by comparison, we generally find that it will be a cost savings for non-residential businesses to calculate these cap charges. I think Jamie determined that there's a restaurant that's coming to town that if we utilize fixture counts or if we utilize seats, their fees were going to be some 30 to 50% higher than if we did it by meter size. We evaluated the demands of that restaurant by meter size and felt like it was most appropriate. And we feel like that the proposed method for capturing cap charges, for determining cap charges, is most appropriate. Staff recommends approval. Recommended action would be to enact ordinance 2020-23, amending Article 4, Chapter 98, Division 2 and 3 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry to reflect that water and wastewater system development charges will be calculated based upon water meter size.
Rich, did Mike steal your thunder there? It sounded like he got pretty close.
He did a decent job. I'll give him an A-.
You want to go ahead and read it in, so just make sure we get that A+.
Sure, why not? Ordinance number 2020-23, an ordinance pertaining to utilities within the city of Newberry, amending Division 2 and Division 3 of Article 6, Chapter 98 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, pertaining to water system development charges and sewer system development charges, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion would be to adopt ordinance 2020-23 upon second reading as read by title only.
Thank you, Rich. Do I hear that motion? You guys zooming in, don't be shy. Got a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Norfleet. So the dais have any questions on ordinance, second reading of ordinance 2020-23? Okay, hear nothing from the commission. Dallas, if you'd put our phone number up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to item 12 on tonight's published agenda. This is about water and wastewater system development charges. We have a motion properly second on the floor to approve on second reading ordinance 2020-23. If you'd like to address the commission on this ordinance, all you need to do is dial the phone number on your screen. That will get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you see a little hand symbol. Simply click that symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. While you dial in, we're going to check in with our residents here in the chamber to see if they have any questions or comments on ordinance 2020-23. Hearing nothing from the live residents, we'll go back to our virtual residents. In Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll go back to the commission for a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Clark? I got you. And Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. And that's going to take us to item 13 on tonight's published agenda, which is a special temporary use permit for a Sister Hazel concert on October 23rd. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a quasi-judicial. A quasi-judicial means that this body ceases to be a legislative body and they move into being a judicial body. That changes the rules of the game. So we're going to read this proceeding into the public, and this is the only quasi-judicial we have. Nope, we have another one. Dallas, I'm going to read these procedures in. If nobody new enters the meeting between items 13 and items 14, then I won't read the procedures again. We'll just move right in, or we'll stay in quasi-judicial. And so you guys help me pay attention to that. Okay, so we're going to begin tonight by reading into the record the resolution by title and number. Then the city attorney is going, or I'm going to explain the rules concerning testimony during a quasi-judicial. And the primary rule is that the substantial and competent evidence level must be met when the board makes a decision. And it will state the following, and I quote, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. At this time, I'm going to ask Rich to go ahead and read the resolution into the record, and then I'll ask the clerk if she will swear anyone in. Oh, there she is. Okay, I've got the clerk. Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2020-46, a resolution of the city of Newberry, Florida, considering an application STUP 20-03 for a special temporary use permit to allow an outdoor drive-in concert as authorized under section 14.10 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing approval for a special permit for temporary use, Sister Hazel Drive-In concert on 60.42 acres, more or less, within an agricultural A zoning district as provided in section 4.4 on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, on tax parcel number 02515-004-002, repealing resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion would be to pass the resolution as read by title only, deny the resolution, or approve the resolution with conditions.
Okay, thank you, Rich. I'm going to ask the clerk to go ahead and swear everybody in, and folks, swearing folks in on a Zoom meeting can be a little bit awkward. So if you in any way believe that you might want to give testimony here tonight, if you could go ahead and swear in right now. I'm going to ask the clerk. She's going to give the oath. And then I just need everybody to go around the Zoom and say your name and I do. Okay, so that way she'll say it one time and then we'll just go around and say our name and then say I do. I believe we'll start with Brian. He's usually our swearing in guinea pig. Madam Clerk.
Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Brian Thomas.
You have been duly sworn.
I think Mr. Benito probably is next.
Okay.
Yeah, Phil Benito, I do.
Mr. Mayor, do you want me to say the oath again, or? Mr. Mayor?
Can you hear me? Oh, now you can hear me. So we're
Yeah.
just going to say the oath the one time. I've gotten Brian and I've gotten Phil. Wendy and Chief, are you guys here to speak potentially to this issue? No? Okay, so that's all that we have. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm going to go ahead and ask the commission for any ex parte communications that they've had on this item and go ahead and disclose those now. We'll begin with you, Commissioner Coleman,
None.
Commissioner Farnsworth, Commissioner Clark,
None.
Commissioner Norfleet. Okay, thank you. And at this point, I'm going to go through the presentation order. We're going to adhere to this presentation order fairly strictly tonight. We'll begin with a staff overview. Then the applicant will make a presentation with no time limit. Staff will give us the report and their recommendation, also with no time limit. I have not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so that's going to take us to public comment. Each member of the public will have 3 minutes to speak to this item. Then the applicant will have the opportunity to cross-examine, and staff will also have the opportunity to cross-examine. Then we'll go to members of the decision-making body who, through the chair, may ask questions of the staff, applicant, party interveners, not party interveners, or the participants. Then we'll hear final arguments from the applicant and staff related solely to the evidence and testimony presented at the hearings and introduced into the record. Then the city attorney will advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law and the factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. Then we will enter into deliberations of the application, and after deliberations, a vote will be taken to approve with conditions, continue, or deny the application. Brian, go ahead and give the commission staff overview.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, this is, as stated, Resolution 2020-46, the application number STUP 20-03. It is for a special temporary use permit to allow for an outdoor drive-in concert by local favorite band, Sister Hazel. The application is actually by Phil Benito. He's a promoter for the band, an agent for Pat Post, the owner. The special permit, like I said, would allow only a temporary use, a one-time use. It's in the agricultural zoning district. It's actually only using one of 3 contiguous parcels, which total 216 acres, which we'll show a little bit later in the aerial photos. And again, as you're well aware, because we've done this a couple times before, it's located on the southwest corner of State Road 26 at the Gilchrist County line. About 216 acres, but only 9 of those will be needed for this particular venue. And while the site, you're all familiar, has the phosphate mine, which the original venue was set up to use down in the pit, that actually will not be used for this concert event because of the change in the way it's configured into a drive-in instead. So there's the parcel map that shows you the outline of the 3 parcels, and then the aerial. And the area in red here demonstrates approximately 9 acres that would be used out of the totality. They won't need to get into any of the other areas because there's only going to be up to 500 cars, so there's plenty of room for those to be parked and spaced on the 9-acre parcel. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes the overview.
Okay.
And Mr. Benito is available.
Ms. Benito, I don't think you have a PowerPoint to present to us, but certainly you can address the commission, tell us what your idea, what your plan is. If I'm wrong and you have a PowerPoint, absolutely go right into it.
I don't have a PowerPoint prepared. I do, just to kind of run through run a show with it quickly. We would be looking to do doors at 6:00 p.m. The show would start approximately 7:30 and it would be scheduled in by 10, but we're asking that the permit be to 10:30 just to give us a couple minutes if we need to delay the start of the show for any reason, getting cars in, that sort of thing. We do plan on having 2 food trucks there, but those will be the only kind of on-premise sales as far as any type of vendors, and those will be local vendors from Newberry. The wood grill, barbecue food truck, and a taco truck that they're actually helping bring those guys in. Does anyone on the commission have any specific questions about this?
We'll get to that in just one second. We appreciate your patience, Mr. Benito. We know that the P&Z was very diligent in their processes, so you've gotten a lot of familiarity now with this end of the process. But we're going to move to the staff report and recommendation, and just hold on, Mr. Benito, because we'll get to questions here shortly. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I will say, if it's all right with you and the commission, you've all seen this, a lot of this material twice before for the other temporary use permits that have been granted. And so I figured I'd go through the rudimentary stuff pretty quickly and just focus a little bit on the specifics to this concert. Again, it's one-time event. It's not even a day, it's one evening event on Friday, October 23rd. As Mr. Benito said, doors open at 6 and the music will be completed by 10:30. No musical activity, i.e. Noise generated after 10:30. They can have a couple of days prior and a couple of days after to do setup and cleanup. And it will not, there's that cut and paste again. It will not be down in the old mining pit. The anticipated attendance for this one is somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000. The tickets that they're selling are for a car, which includes 4 seats, and if they want, they can buy 2 extras. So potentially, if all 500 bought 6, you could have 3,000. But the anticipated attendance, Mr. Benito says, is closer to the 2,000 mark. As he mentioned, they'll have food and beverage vendors. There will be no alcohol sales on site. They will have some T-shirt and concert memorabilia sales. No overnight camping or open fires, just like the others. They have submitted their little site plan, and they have the operations and emergency plan, which is essentially the same one that we've already approved twice before for Westfest and for the larger event, should that occur. And then the facilities plan. Section 1410.11 is what allows the commission to approve outdoor concerts and similar uses on a temporary basis. Specific items has to be determined and addressed as findings, and those findings were developed and drafted from the Planning and Zoning Board. We'll talk just briefly. The standards of evidence, of course, for this temporary use permit are lighter, less cumbersome than the special exception, which grants permanent rights. And so these are the items that have been addressed in the findings and conditions: noise hazards, traffic, parking, time requirement, things that we've actually already touched on most of it. So the special temporary use permit, as far as standards of evidence, it is a lower standard. You don't have to have quite as high a level of detail. Special exception is the higher standard because, of course, you're granting rights that go into the future, not just a one-time event. As some examples, you can have hand-drawn site plans versus engineered drawings, statements from local law enforcement rather than a traffic engineering study, and estimates versus actual sound engineering studies. So again, briefly, the findings are generally the same as were approved for the other two concerts. The planning and zoning board found that the nuisance, based on the testimony of the applicant, they don't think that the noise will present a nuisance or a hazard because of the small scale of the venue. The promoter believes that there'll be less noise generated than you would in a larger venue. Traffic, again, will be handled by Alachua County Sheriff's Office, which they're negotiating with right now for the event. Of course, parking will be won't be an issue because the whole point of a drive-in concert is everybody has an assigned parking space. They will be separated, adequate distance for social distancing due to pandemic considerations. I've already talked about the specific time requirement. Finding is that is adequate, and the appropriate conditions and safeguards be outlined in the conditions coming up. So as the conditions go, condition 1 is that they're allowed to have a one-time drive-in concert on that specific day, October 23rd. The entrance will be off of Newberry Road. The permitted uses are the one-time event, sale of t-shirts and other memorabilia, food and beverages. It'll take place from 6 to 10:30. Again, no music activity after 10:30 p.m. The concert's in what was formerly called the Mine. I think it's being renamed, but for now we leave it as the Mine. But it will again not be down in the pit. No overnight camping permitted. All uses consistent with the local attached parking plan. Maintain an updated operations emergency plan. They have to be approved by the fire chief. Again, no open fires permitted at the facility. If they use any tents, which they have not applied for any tent permits or anything, but if they did, then it would have to comply with the Florida Building Code. So again, likewise, stages will be inspected in accordance with the Fire Prevention and Florida Building Code. Evacuation plan will be finalized and presented 15 days prior and approved by the fire chief. Security and traffic coordination will be through the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. Roadways and access roads will be, they have to maintain adequate access for emergency vehicles at all times. They will provide proof of liability insurance. I believe Mr. Benito said it's a policy of $1 million policy. And of course, they'll strictly comply with the health requirements for provision of handling of food. Again, no alcoholic beverages to be sold on the premises. The limit attendance, of course, they've already limited attendance to 500 cars, potential of somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people. Again, all stages to be inspected prior to occupancy. And if they have any temporary structures in excess of 120 feet, then they'll have to comply with the Florida Building Code. And that, Mr. Mayor, is the end of the presentation. Staff's recommendation is to approve Resolution 2020-46, contingent upon compliance with the Planning and Zoning Board recommendations, findings and conditions as presented by staff. And we hope you do, because I'm really looking forward to attending the concert.
All right. I hear some people may already have their tickets. So that's going to take us to public comment. Dallas, if you could put up a phone number for us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on item 13 of tonight's published agenda. It is our first quasi-judicial public hearing tonight, Resolution 2020-46. This is the application for a special use permit for a Sister Hazel concert. It's a drive-in concert. We've just heard the applicant's presentation and staff's presentation with their recommendation of approval contingent upon the applicant's ability to meet all of the clauses and stipulations. If you'd like to make a comment on this motion or on this application, all you need to do is dial the phone number on your screen right now. That will get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. Simply click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission, again, on Resolution 2020-46. That's what's in front of the board at this moment. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. While you're dialing in, we're going to check in with our live residents here in the chamber with us tonight, see if they have any comments on this application. Any live residents have any comments on this application? Everyone in here, Sister Hazel fans. So, okay. We will go to virtual residents. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll go back to the commission. And that's going to take us to applicant ability to cross-examine. Mr. Benito, did you hear anything in staff's recommendation that you feel the need to clarify or ask? You certainly don't have to, but we want to give you the opportunity to do so if you would like it.
No, I think Brian covered it all pretty well, or very well.
Thank you, sir. Staff, did you hear anything said tonight either by the applicant or yourselves that you'd like to cross-examine?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the commission. All right, commissioners, at this point, you have the opportunity to ask questions of staff or Mr. Benito about this application. Does any commissioner have any questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Regarding to the security, when you have a large gathering of that nature, and we talked about this regarding block parties and all, what is the requirement for law enforcement for security?
So
Go ahead,
after
Mr.
meeting, or I had a meeting with Lieutenant Levy last week or the week before. We decided that we would be somewhere in 12 to 14 officers or Alachua County Sheriff personnel. 8 of those officers would be inside the venue, and the venue itself would be basically set up into quadrants. So there would be 2 officers per each quadrant, and then there would be 2 officers or traffic personnel at the entrances for the entrance and exits, or for the ingress egress.
All right, thank you.
Does the commission have any other questions or comments? We had Lieutenant Levy at the P&Z meeting, gave a fairly extensive presentation. And I can't really reiterate it perfectly, but I could probably answer it pretty close. Anyone else has any? Okay, hearing none. And I think I see Commissioner Martin joining us right now. Just for the record, he doesn't count. He's heard the quasi-judicial proceedings a lot of times, so we don't have to repeat it just for him. Okay, no other questions of the commission. That will move us to final arguments. Mr. Benito, again, it's not necessary, but if you would like to make a final argument, now would be an appropriate time to do so.
I think I'm good unless anybody has any specific questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Brian, would you like to make a final argument?
No, Mr. Mayor, just that I think this is a great opportunity. Number one, it's a very popular local band. It's a great first concert, I think. The opportunity, we've had 2 others that have unfortunately been postponed due to COVID. And having an outdoor drive-in concert is at least a good start. It gives us a good first opportunity. So looking forward to it.
Agreed. Okay, Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body as the applicable law and the factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, as you indicated at the beginning of the hearing, we are governed by the substantial and competent evidence standard. And as is set forth in the proposed resolution, the commission's job is to determine whether that standard has been met with respect to all the requirements in the LDR section 14.10 with respect to nuisance, traffic, and parking issues. That's what's before the commission tonight.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Okay, we've now entered into deliberations, so the commission can make their final comments, concerns. If there are no deliberations, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman to approve. a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. So I have a motion properly seconded on the floor to approve resolution 2020-46/STUP 20-03, which is an application for a special temporary use permit for Sister Hazel Concert. And before I ask for any questions on the motion, Rich, I've got a question for you. Commissioner Martin is here with us now, but he wasn't here at the beginning of the proceedings. Would it be appropriate or inappropriate for him to vote on this motion? Should he wait for the next one? Or can
He
he?
should wait for the next one. I think for purposes of the timing of him joining the hearing at the tail end, for our purposes, it's as if he wasn't participating in this hearing.
Okay, but he will be here for the next one for the whole thing, so he can
Yes.
participate at that point. Okay.
That's correct.
All right, we have a motion probably second on the floor. Are there any questions on the motion from the dais? Hearing none. Dallas, would you please put our phone number back up? Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our first quasi-judicial proceeding tonight. This is resolution 2020-46. It's about a special temporary use permit for a Sister Hazel drive-in concert right here in Newberry. Very exciting stuff. The motion has been made and properly seconded for approval. If you'd like to call in and address the commission on this, all you need to do is dial the phone number on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. Simply click that symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. While you are dialing in with your comments and questions, we're going to check in with our live residents here in the chamber with us and see if they have any questions or comments. Seeing none from our live residents here, virtual residents, we will go to you now. Dallas, I think that's been just at 30 seconds there. So do we have anyone with their hand up?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go back for a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. That will take us to item 14, which is another quasi-judicial. And Commissioner Martin, perfect timing here because I believe that Commissioner Norfleet, did you have anything you want to say before we get into item 14? Okay, so Commissioner Norfleet will recuse himself on item 14. Commissioner Martin will come in to be our fourth vote. Dallas, has anyone new entered the waiting room or the virtual world while we were in that first quasi-judicial?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. That being the case, I'm not going to read these procedures over again. I'm going to ask the attorney to read the rules in. I'm going to ask the clerk to swear in. I'm going to ask for ex parte, and then we will go straight to the staff overview. Mr. Attorney?
I'm sorry, you want me to read in the quasi judicial rules?
No, I'm sorry. I don't have there is no, I was looking for the resolution.
Yeah, I follow you. Actually, in this case, yeah, I don't think there is a proposed resolution here, but what we do have in front of the commission is a proposed amended development agreement that I do think is in the packet. So we can still apply our quasi judicial procedures, and then we can, by motion made to approve or deny or add conditions to the proposed amendment, the commission can entertain a motion at that point.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Okay, so now I'm going to ask the clerk to swear you in again like we did before. I'm going to ask the clerk to give the oath one time. If you're here to speak to this item, which is item 14 on tonight's published agenda, all you need to do after she says the oath is your name and that you do. Madam Clerk?
Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Brian Thomas, I do.
You have been duly sworn.
Wendy, our chief, are you here for this one?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay.
You might want to swear in Allison Fettner. She's the engineer for the developer.
Ms. Fettner, if you heard the oath, all you need to do is say you do and your name. Or your name and that you do. Ms. Fettner, can you hear us? Look and see if you've got your mute button on. We can't hear you. We're going to give Ms. Fettner a little opportunity to get the audio fixed. And if we need to, we'll come back and ask the clerk to swear you in at a later time if there's a moment in the quasi judicial that you need to give testimony. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and ask for ex parte on this item. Commissioner Coleman,
None.
Commissioner Farnsworth, Commissioner Clark,
None.
Commissioner Martin.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, we have gone through what this quasi judicial is about. We've sworn in and we have asked for ex parte. I believe that takes us to staff overview. Brian, is that going to be you?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As previously mentioned, this is an request to extend and make a few slight amendments to the Countryway South Development Agreement. Countryway South is a 93-unit planned residential development. Planned residential developments have no commercial component, unlike the planned developments that do. This original development agreement was passed by the commission back in October of 2009. It was never constructed. None of the infrastructure and roadways or anything had been constructed, and the development agreement we discovered had expired in December 31st of 2019. And so developer, which is Norfleet Properties LLC, is requesting an extension of the development agreement to allow them to go ahead and construct, and some minor amendments to the development agreement. To give you some context, the original Countryway is to the north of this development. The eastern boundary of the development runs along the railroad tracks. You can see the tracks there and US 2741. So it's kind of due south and east of the original Countryway on the west side of the highway. As stated, it was originally approved back in 2009, never constructed and expired in 2019. I consulted with the city attorney, and they looked into it and agreed that the commission, even though it's expired, the commission is within their rights to approve an extension. And so the revised development agreement, it's pretty simple, proposes the following. It would remove the requirement to develop the subdivision in 3 specific phases, and instead just changes it to say that it can be developed in multiple phases. The original approved development agreement was actually very rigid in that, and this would give the developer a little bit more flexibility moving forward. It extends the duration agreement to December 31st of 2030, so a 10-year extension. And it amends the acreage of the first phase and any subsequent phases, which is a very minor amendment. And then the engineer, Allison Fettner, has been in discussion with our utilities director, Jamie Jones, and put into the agreement, the amended agreement, that to improve fire flow, they would install a 12-inch water main rather than an 8-inch water main, which is called for in the original development agreement, with the city paying the cost for the upsizing of the water line. And it just clarifies that the most current version of the ITE trip generation manual will be used. The previous one had a reference to an older version. And so basically, staff believes that the conditions that existed 11 years ago when the first approval occurred for the development still exist, are still essentially the same, and that the Countryway South development remains compatible with the surrounding area. And for that reason, staff recommends the City Commission approve the amended development agreement for Countryway South and extend the agreement to 2030. I apologize, I should have said up front, I spoke with Ms. Fettner earlier. She doesn't have a presentation, and I just kind of launched into the staff presentation, but it's because she did not have a presentation. And that concludes the staff presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Is that the staff presentation and recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so, and did you say Ms. Fetter does have a presentation to make or does not have a presentation?
She does not.
Okay, so we skipped over applicant presentation with the applicant's permission and knowledge of that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status. So that's going to take us to public comment. Every member of the public will have 3 minutes to address the commission on this topic, which is a quasi-judicial proceeding requesting to an extended amended development agreement for Country Way South, which is a 93-unit planned residential development south of the original Country Way subdivision. If you would like to address the commission on this item, now would be the appropriate time to do so. All you need to do is dial the phone number on your screen. That's going to get you into the meeting. Once you're in the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. Simply click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission on this item. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. While we're waiting on you to have the opportunity to dial in, we're going to check in with our live residents here in the chamber with us to see if they have any questions or comments on this quasi-judicial proceeding. Don't see any. They're Country Way fans as well. So we'll go back to our virtual residents. Again, we got about a 30-second delay between our live feed and our YouTube feed. So we're just making sure we covered that 30 seconds. And Brian, do we have anybody with their hand raised? I'm sorry, Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We'll go back to the quasi-judicial then. And Ms. Fettner, I don't know if we got your audio working at this point in time. If we did and you want to cross-examine, we'll need to swear you in. If you did not and you don't want to cross-examine, then we'll not swear you in. Okay. I don't want to cut you off, Ms. Fettner, but we're not hearing you if you're talking. And if you are, maybe you could put it in the chat if you're trying to talk to us and it's not coming through. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you didn't hear anything in that presentation that you'd like to cross-examine. And I'm going to assume, Brian, you don't want to cross-examine yourself again, which will take us to the commission asking questions of, I guess, the staff, since we don't have any audio on our applicant. So commission, do you have any questions for Brian on this application? Commissioner Farnsworth.
My question is the increase in the water main from an 8-inch to a 12-inch. Is that a requirement, or is that just something that we think we need to at this time?
Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, that's necessary. Well, it's two things. It allows for further connection in the future beyond this development, which is why the city is going to reimburse a portion of it for the upsizing. And then it also helps to improve the potential fire flow through the neighborhood.
Mr. Mayor, I was not sworn. I guess the city attorney need to weigh in on whether I can respond to that question.
Why don't we go ahead and swear you in? I'm just going to jump the gun on Rich and say, let's be better safe than sorry, right? Madam Clerk.
Why not?
It's for City Manager New. Is that who?
Correct.
Okay. Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have been duly sworn.
Mr. Mayor, Jamie Jones is unavailable tonight, but I've been in attendance at the meetings that he's had with Ms. Fettner related to oversizing the water main. Actually, it was a discussion between Jamie and I. We anticipate that we need to extend water down to Southwest 30th Avenue, where the city has a future plan for an elevated water storage tank. And that water main will need to be of adequate size to transport water back. So we believe that it's in the city's best interest for that to be a 12-inch water main. It not necessarily something the development needs to serve the number of homes that are being contemplated in the development, which is why we've made the offer that we should pay to oversize. If it was staff's determination that the development needed a 12-inch water main to provide fire services for the development or to provide adequate water for the development, there would be no offer to pay oversizing costs.
That answer your question, Commissioner? Does any other commissioner have any other questions, comments? And Ms. Fetner is participating through the chat. She just has confirmed that she has agreed with the staff report and they have agreed to the water main upgrade with the city. Okay, do we have any further questions from the staff? Okay, we're going to move to final arguments. Brian, do you have any? You don't need to, but if you feel you need to make a final argument, go ahead.
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Fetner, if you can get your audio, we'll swear you in and give you the opportunity. Otherwise, use the chat and let us know if you're fine with us not giving you the opportunity to make a final argument. She is fine with no final argument. Okay, Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body as applicable law and the factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, and to clarify a comment from Mr. Thomas in terms of his discussions with the city attorney on this matter, we do agree that this development agreement is capable of being amended and extended with respect to the new deadline in 2030. A couple things to think about there is, we've done this in the past, meaning the city has amended these agreements in the past. Typically, we're looking at equitable considerations. Obviously, being in the middle of a pandemic would perhaps be a circumstance that the commission would want to think about today in terms of a need for an extension. And then in addition to that, there is arguably under our LDRs and under the law, there would be some obligation on the city's part to put the applicant on notice in terms of a potential reversion of the current zoning. And so that would be another reason that no notice has been given from the city in that regard, and an opportunity for the applicant to respond to that. So based on those considerations, we would suggest from the city attorney's standpoint that it is appropriate for the commission to consider amending the development agreement. And of course, we're governed by the substantial and competent evidence standard with respect to all the evidence and testimony and considerations that we've heard tonight.
Thank you for that context, Rich. Okay, the commission will now enter into deliberations. If you don't have any deliberations, we'll entertain a motion to approve with conditions or deny. It was almost there, almost.
I have nothing further, Mr. Mayor. I'll be happy to make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Martin. I have a motion to approve, Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Okay, I have a motion properly seconded on the floor to extend and amend the development agreement for Countryway South. Are there any final questions or comments from the dais? Okay, hearing none. Dallas, would you put our phone number up for one last time on item 14? Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of item 14, which is a request to extend and amend the development of Countryway South. If you'd like to make a comment, you have a question that you'd like to address to the commission, all you need to do is dial the phone number on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. Simply click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. While you guys are dialing in with your comments and questions, we're going to go to our live audience members to see if they have any comments or questions about this motion, which is to extend and amend the development agreement, which will allow 93 planned residential units south of the original Countryway subdivision. Do you have any comments from the public? Hearing none from the chamber, we'll go to our virtual residents. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised? Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
I'm sorry, was that an aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. That takes us out of quasi judicial for the night, and will move us to our agenda items. Item 15 on tonight's published agenda is law enforcement contract with the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the request of the City Commission, we pulled together this information for discussion. Staff's recommended action is to discuss the item and provide direction if desired. In summary, we currently have a contract with the Alachua County Sheriff's Office to provide law enforcement services. That contract became effective October 1, 2017. It was originally slated to expire on September the 30th of 2020. Last year, we entered into an extension, a 2-year extension. So the contract is now set to expire September 30th, 2022. I've attached a copy of the contract and the contract amendment to the staff report for for the commission's convenience. Just real briefly, the services outlined in the agreement is that the sheriff will provide 1 full-time separate deputy within the city limits on a 24/7 basis. She will provide 3 school resource officers, 1 for each of the schools in Newberry. She'll provide qualified crossing guards. That currently is 4 crossing guards. Increased patrols within the city limits, dependent upon call loading. She provides extra deputies for the homecoming parade, Christmas parade, watermelon festival and parade at no additional cost, and for combined communication services. So there's a table that outlines the costs that have increased from $777,000 annually up to this year. We are slated to pay a little over $1 million. It's $1,007,000. And that's a pretty notable increase. The increase from the 2020 fiscal year to the 2021 fiscal year is $171,000. As I mentioned earlier in the night, that is a really big step for us. We make those payments in monthly payments, and the agreement provides for termination by either party without cause upon provision of 270 days notice to the other party of its intent to terminate. So I advised both Sheriff Darnell that we were going to have this discussion tonight. Sheriff Darnell responded to me that she would be unable to attend or participate due to a prior commitment. I also extended an invitation to participate in the meeting to Sheriff-elect Watson. And he and I had a telephone conversation about it, which I would characterize as he was reluctant to engage in negotiation so far removed from being the actual sheriff. He understood that our commission has had some heartburn with this agreement through the years, and that he was committed to working with our commission and our city to provide law enforcement services moving forward. He felt like that 3.5 months prior to taking the office of sheriff, it was a little premature for him to engage in specifics. He was somewhat concerned that if the commission votes to give notice tonight, effective somewhere around July the 1st, that he would inherit a budget that would have a deficit of about $240,000 right off the get-go. But he understood, and he said that no matter what the commission decided tonight, that he was committed to working with the city of Newberry to develop a law enforcement contract that was palatable for the city. I'll conclude that as my presentation, and I'm available for comments if you have any or questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. New. And I think this commission understands that our contract was with Sheriff Darnell. We have a new sheriff in town. And so we have new opportunities to revisit some of these conversations. I also have spoken with Sheriff-elect Watson. While he can't, as the manager said, he can't take any official action, I believe that we will be able to have beneficial negotiations with him and have a lot more options to bring back to this commission, which is really what this commission has always asked for, is options. In order for us to begin that process, though, we need to exit the contract that we're in. And so that's what brings this conversation to you tonight. By exiting this contract, you would basically give the manager 270 days to work with a Sheriff-elect Watson and to figure out what those options are and to have some workshops and conversations along the way. So that's the context and the conversation that's in front of you tonight. And we certainly entertain questions from the commission to either myself or to staff. Commissioner Farnsworth?
So if we decide to exit this contract now, how would that affect the budget? You say we're paying monthly? So do we continue to pay up until that, 265 days, and then we just have to stop paying?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that we would pay for the service for the first 9 months of the year from October through June, assuming the letter and notice are issued around October 1st. So we pay for 9 months, and that's about $80,000 per month. We would not be committed to paying for the final 3 months of the fiscal year, a potential savings to the city of Newberry of $240,000. However, during that period of time, we would also potentially be without enhanced law enforcement services that we currently enjoy.
Well, that's questionable. Nothing.
Okay, other questions from the dais? Commissioner Clark, are you reaching for the mic, or?
Mr. Mayor,
Go right ahead, sir. You have the floor.
hearing the city manager's position on this, and then even we get into this 270 days prior to Sheriff-elect Watson will be in, and by that time we should have an agreement finalized by something to take care of that 90-day, that last 90 days, whether it's the money situation or not, whether we save any money or not, we'll still have law enforcement.
Correct. That would be task number one. If you guys vote to send this letter October 1st, I would say you put with that direction for the city manager to immediately begin conversations as soon as Sheriff-elect Watson becomes Sheriff Watson and feels comfortable to do so, so that we know what's going to happen in that last 3 months.
Yes.
Okay. Other questions from the dais? Commissioner Norfleet.
The current contract wouldn't be void once the new sheriff has taken office?
No, sir. Mr. Mayor, the current contract has a provision for a new sheriff to void the contract within 30 days, but it does not include a similar provision for the city to void the contract upon election of a new sheriff.
That concludes your comments, Commissioner Norfleet. Okay. Any other comments, questions from the commission? Commissioner Coleman.
The school resource officers, aren't they already going to be covered by the state anyway?
Certainly one of the issues that didn't exist when we entered into this contract was there was no state mandate for school resource officers. Now there is. That state mandate put school resource officers firmly in the responsibility of the Alachua County School Board and the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. It's a little unclear as to whose percentage is. It's a 50-50 split, a 60-40 split. but it's clearly one of those governing entities or both of those governing entities' responsibility, and it is a mandate, so they will be there. I would also say that the 9 months gets us through this school year. So one way or the other, they will certainly, they would be funded and they will be there in our schools. And they'll be, at this point, they're going to be funded by the Newberry taxpayer, even though the state mandate says it's not the Newberry taxpayer's responsibility.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission? If not, then we would entertain a motion or some direction from the commission. If we want to go down this road and try to blaze a new path with Sheriff Watson, taking into consideration some of the developments that have happened over the course of this contract, like that state mandate for SROs, we would need a motion or we would need direction to city staff to issue that letter. I believe I would sign it that we intend to exit.
I'll make a motion to get out of the contract with the current sheriff. And what else we need to add to that?
We need to direct staff to enter into negotiations with Clovis, Sheriff Watson, as soon as it's appropriate to do so.
Yeah, what he said.
Okay, I have a motion to issue a letter of discontinuation of that contract and to issue direction to staff to enter into negotiations. It has been properly seconded by Commissioner Farnsworth. So Commissioner Coleman made the motion, Commissioner Farnsworth made the second. Are there any questions on the motion from the dais? Okay. Hearing none. Dallas, if you would put our phone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to our first agenda item. Tonight's agenda, it's item 15 on the total agenda. And this is a conversation about law enforcement contract with ASO. That contract is specifically with Sheriff Darnell. This commission has a motion properly seconded on the floor to send a letter noticing Newberry's intention to exit that contract and to also begin conversations with Sheriff Watson on new negotiations. If you would like to address the commission on this topic, now would be an appropriate time to do so. All you need to do is dial the phone number on your screen in front of you. Once we get you into the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. Simply click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission on this item, on this conversation. We'd make sure you have the opportunity to do so. While you're dialing in, we'll go to our live in-chamber residents to see if they have any public comment. Seeing none, we will go to our virtual residents. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll go back to the commission. Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Coleman, probably seconded by Commissioner Farnsworth to send the letter and enter negotiations. Let's have a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet? Commissioner Martin? Motion
Aye.
passes unanimously. That will move. Did I skip Farnsworth? Did I skip Clark? Commissioner Clark. I apologize.
It's an aye.
It's an aye. Motion passes unanimously. My little box is moved around on me on my screen. I got confused. Okay, motion passes 4-0. Okay, remember that item 16 and 17 merged, so we really only had item 16, Alachua County's charter amendment is the growth management.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
you're echoing real bad.
Is that you? Mike? You, Tim, are you unmuted? What about now? How about now? Okay. I'm glad. I thought that echo was just me. So items 16 and 17 on the published agenda are really only one item. So there's just item 16. Alachua County's charter amendment is the growth management area in Alachua County. That's the conversation that we need to engage in right now. And I'm going to ask Mike to give us the context of that conversation, and then we'll come back to the dais. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd be happy to introduce an item. I think as we delve into details, the city attorney's office is probably a better resource for giving details related to this issue. I think we reported to the commission last week that the city of Alachua had filed suit against Alachua County related to their charter amendment number 2, which is for the creation of a growth management areas within Alachua County. It's an item that's scheduled for referendum on November the 3rd, 2020. And it essentially will put in place areas within Alachua County that will remain under the county's land use control, even if they are annexed into municipalities. This item came from the Charter Review Committee, which was commissioned back in the fall, winter of 2019. They discussed this and brought this item forward in the spring of this year as a recommendation. The county commission had actually teed it up for them prior to their being commissioned and asked them to review it. Over the spring, the Florida legislature passed a bill that would have preempted Alachua County for enacting this type of legislation. And that bill was vetoed by Governor DeSantis in July. So currently it is scheduled to go before the voters on November the 3rd. Alachua filed suit with 3 counts. One, I think it's better for Scott or Rich to explain the 3 counts and what they stand for. And we were asked to put this on the agenda for discussion tonight. I think as a part B, we'd also discuss with the commission an update on an earlier discussion we'd had about this item that cities or government entities were preempted by state law from advocating against referendum items, things that were going to the voters for consideration. The city attorney has found some new information on that, and we'll share that with the commission.
Okay, Rich or Scott, who's taking the lead?
I will take the lead on this item, Mr. Mayor. And first of all, I think that Manager New has set the stage well and set the table on what we're here and what we're dealing about. I'll just give you a very brief example of how things work. You commissioners certainly know this. You've seen it many, many times. Somebody that lives in unincorporated Alachua County petitions through typically voluntary annexation to be annexed to the city of Newberry. If they meet the statute under Chapter 171, they're contiguous and there's other provisions in the statute, then they can be annexed. And unless and until the city of Newberry exercises its zoning authority over that property, the property retains its designation from a zoning standpoint and a comprehensive plan as it did under the county. So typically, shortly after annexations, we provide for our own zoning measures, and typically it's Alachua County Ag, and it goes to City of Newberry Ag. Well, sometimes that property becomes developed, and the landowner may decide that he wants to subdivide, he or she wants to subdivide the property. If they decide to turn it from ag to residential, we go through a very laborious process to create a subdivision, and the property is developed in that process. And that's how Chapter 171 of the Florida statutes works in a nutshell. That's the way it's set up in the state regime. That's how the statutes are put together. And of course, we have constitutional as well as statutory authority that the city governs the city's land use and comprehensive plan in the city. The county governs their land use in the county and the unincorporated areas. And there's many, many reasons why that's like that. And landowners typically want to have governance by those people that are closest. That's what municipal governance is all about. You go to your local commission and you say, you make your case, and if you're able to do it, then you rezone the property, designate the comprehensive plan, and that's how the process is designed, and that's how it's supposed to work, and that's what the Constitution of the state of Florida provides, and that's what home rule is all about. This provision changes that. This charter amendment that will be voted on November 3rd changes that provision radically. And what this lawsuit does is it says that the voter is really not informed as to what the overall intent of this vote is all about. It talks about growth management and land use, and it talks about, but it really, at its heart and in a nutshell, what this is about is taking away from municipalities, the city's ability to manage growth management on their own, as they direct and they determine its property. And so what this does is this provision does not inform the voters as to what is really happening in that regard. And interestingly enough, the argument also is that the statutes in the state of Florida require a summary that must be 75 words in length. And the English version of that summary is 75 words or less, but the Spanish version is 90 words plus. And so the provision that is placed before the voters may, from a technical or procedural standpoint, may fail on that issue alone. But then when we peel back the onion skins and we look a little bit further into this ordinance, it's much more pervasive as to its effect on home rule powers within the various cities. And the voter, if you look at the provisions in the county growth management area, the provisions that are listed in the actual charter provisions, it doesn't inform the voter that. I'm just going to read you real quickly one section of it. There is hereby established a county growth management area initially consisting of all those lands so designated on that certain map titled County Growth Management Area Map dated June 12, 2020, which is on file at the official records of the clerk of the Board of County Commissioners. Now, on that point alone, it says that they may, by affirmative vote of not less than 4 commissioners, remove lands from the county growth management area. I submit to you what happens if we add lands to that. Can we do that by county ordinance? Is that permissible? And could this also affect lands that perhaps are not annexed, perhaps other municipal lands? So this ordinance is not clear as to how to remove those lands from this county map. The map's on file. It tells us that map is in existence, but how do we amend that either by additions or deletions down the road? So that's a substantive point that is made in the complaint and calls into question the efficacy of the document itself and the confusion that is led by virtue of this amendment. As we stated just a moment ago, there's also the theory that this is doing much more than what is allowed for in the construction of the amendment and takes away home rule powers. So that's the gravamen, that's the allegations that are contained in the lawsuit that the city of Alachua has filed against Alachua County. The lawsuit is seeking declaratory relief by the court to say that this is an invalid usurping of municipal home rule powers, that it procedurally the procedure is improper, and is asking, in this case, Judge Kime, who has this matter in her division to strike the matter from the ballot. My anticipation is that this matter is going to move pretty quickly because we only have in the context of the law between now and November 3rd is a very quick period of time. So the lawsuit has to be filed, it has to be served on the chair of the county to be effective, and then you can ask for emergency relief before the court and make the arguments of why this matter should not go to the voters, because procedurally it's defective and substantively it is also defective. I've talked to David Theriak about the county's reaction to it so far, as well as the city of Alachua's position. And he said that the city of Alachua wished and desired to file this on their own. They want to have decision-making authority over what happens with the lawsuit. I certainly respect that. I think that's every city's ability, and I think the city of Newberry should also have that ability. He did indicate that if we were to file suit, our own independent lawsuit, the likelihood is that our cases would be conjoined to each other, and we would move forward, sending a message to both the court and the county that we believe that this is defective for the reasons that we've stated. Again, this is going to move pretty quickly from here, so that we're asking to put this on the agenda tonight for purposes of giving us authorization to move forward. City of Archer, just a few moments ago, voted to file suit. So they are joining into the fray. They're going to file their independent action. And as I stated, the cases will probably be conjoined because all of the cases are going to have similar arguments. Citizen got up at the Archer meeting and said, well, why do we need to do this? Why do we need to file suit? Let's let other cities make this argument. Let's let Newberry do that. Let's let perhaps Alachua do that. Why do we want to spend money doing this? And my response to that was that you have a seat at the table. The judge is going to want to hear from you. In addition to that, I think it shows solidarity, at least between our cities, Alachua and Newberry, that we believe this is an overreach. It's improper, both from the statutory regime under annexation in the state of Florida, and constitutionally it's an overreach as to our home rule powers. So my estimation is we will work tomorrow and the next day, hopefully, to have this complaint ready to be filed. There are some arguments that we want to look at, and perhaps have some independent arguments that then David Theriak has made on behalf of the city of Alachua. And we wish to move forward on that, but of course, before we do that, we need direction from this commission. My anticipation is there's going to be a filing fee. A filing fee is about $450 roughly. The service process, we may get a process server because we'll try to get this done very quickly. Appointed, they cost money. It's probably another couple $150 to do the service process. My estimation is somewhere in the neighborhood of $750 as far as costs are concerned. We anticipate City of Newberry as well as City of Alachua to do the heavy lifting on a lot of the research and the development of the lawsuit. We anticipate that there will be an emergency motion for injunctive relief filed probably very quickly after we obtain service process over the county on this, and that the matter will be scheduled quickly before Judge Keim in the next few weeks. So we're estimating approximately $15,000 of attorney's fees between now and that period of time for expenditure of funds. And we're asking for the permission of this commission and the directive of this commission for us to file suit, much along the lines of the City of Alachua's complaint that they filed, and then to proceed and work in conjunction with the city attorneys for City of Alachua, David Theriak namely, to proceed and bring this before Judge Kime. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Newberry has been on the forefront of this issue for months now. This is the exact same county overreach issue that you all sent me to address the Alachua County Charter Review Board, which before the shutdown, I was doing on a weekly basis, trying to speak against this. Those words obviously fell on deaf ears and they moved forward anyway. I want to express my admiration to the City of Alachua for taking this step. I think it is certainly, beholden on all of the smaller municipalities to stand together and to stand against this. So I would add my hope that we proceed along these lines. I think we have a short period of time. I think it's important that we at least get the filing done and we get that part issued. And Scott, if this board votes tonight, when would we file that suit? End of this week, beginning of next week? Is that a reasonable time frame?
Well, I anticipate in the next 2 days we'll have it filed.
And then, did I hear you right? The City of Alachua's attorney has found various strong points to argue. And in your conversation after their filing, you've also found additional points that you think could also move the needle. Is that accurate?
That is accurate and correct. I have yet to talk to David Wagner, of course, is on our staff and has some insight to all of this and experience with both municipalities and counties. So I want to talk to David, but I think he's thinking about some arguments that are very similar to some arguments I have that are in addition to David Theriak's complaint and the arguments that he's making. I did call David and I complimented him. I thought that this was we can't know and we can't tell you if it's going to be, there'll be a granting by Judge Kime for injunctive relief to have the stricken from the ballot. We don't know where all this is going to lead. Of course, it will be argued and there's no guarantees, but I do believe that his complaint has strong legal arguments that you can follow. Hopefully you all commissioners have had a chance to look at it. Obviously there's some legalese there, Mayor. I hope you've had a chance to look at it as well, but it's a very well-written document that is written in plain language. It's easy to understand, I believe, where the process got off the rails. I would remark one other thing that was stated in Archer by Commissioner White this evening. She said that Mayor Marlowe stood up and said, look, I think this is an incursion into home rule powers. I think you need to be careful about where you're headed with this. And the response from the attorney that was representing the County Charter Review Committee had said that he's not absolutely certain that this could be in fact problematic, as the way that the response was what was said during that meeting, according to Commissioner White. So I don't know where this ends up, but I certainly do feel that David has a strong foundation in this lawsuit, Mr. Mayor.
I'd remember that exchange, and I would say it wasn't an uncommon exchange. The Charter Review Board asked a lot of questions about whether or not this was legal, whether or not they should pursue it. And it was my sense that all along through those processes, their attorney was recommending not to go down this road. And it was only when they made it clear that they weren't particularly listening to the legal advice, that they intended to do it, that he tried to find some legalese to support what they clearly wanted to do. Scott, should we also name the Alachua County Charter Commission in our complaint?
No, they're not a party. The party that is an interest in this, they're a division of the county. They're authorized and they come into being by the county. So the county is the proper party in interest in this matter.
Okay. And I would remind our board that I believe it was last summer when we saw the writing on the wall, we were headed here. We had discussed setting aside some of our funds out of the contingency if we got to this point. So clear, if this commission decides we want to move forward, we can stick with the contingency. We can ask for other options from staff to come back with us. But it would be, we have had this sort of financial conversation, seeing that we were likely going to be finding ourselves in this position. So any questions from the dais? Commissioner Farnsworth?
Hey, Scott, what type of judge hears these kind of cases?
It'll be a circuit judge. Donna Keim is the judge that is assigned to this. She was appointed to the circuit bench. I want to say it's, I think, less than 10 years ago. I'm not sure how many years she has been on the bench, but we've tried many cases in front of her and are very familiar with. She's a very hardworking judge, and she's going to look at both sides and try to call balls and strikes as she sees them. It will be a circuit judge, which is the highest level of trial court judge in the state of Florida.
And if it's not successful, do you go to, what would be the next level?
Well, we could take it to appeal in front of the first DCA. And so that would be something that could be a possibility, and it would potentially invalidate the vote. If the vote is, if we're unsuccessful in stopping this from going to the voters through injunctive relief, then and the next step is if the voters pass the measure, and if an appellate court finds that the provisions were defective either procedurally or substantively, then the vote would be, the whole thing would be invalidated.
Yeah. Okay. So when
First DCA is up in Tallahassee. So
Let me see if anybody else has any questions, and we'll come back to any other commissioner have any questions or comments about this? Commissioner Martin.
Okay. There's any number of arguments that I could make against the growth management charter amendment that's going to be on the ballot. I'll save that discussion for another day. Unless there is another option to kind of get the same effect and save the money, I'm be interested in that. I don't think I'm not sure that there is, but given the kind of dollars that we're talking about, Scott, do you see any opportunity to when we file? I just feel like there's more bang for the buck here if we had a separate lawsuit that the Alachua County has to defend multiple lawsuits against all the municipalities rather than just having them fighting one battle, so to speak.
There's a principle in law called consolidation or conjoining. So if the substantive issues are the same in this lawsuit number one, in this lawsuit number two, in this lawsuit number three, and on, depending on how many lawsuits, how many cities join into this mix on this. If what we don't want to have under this principle of law is inconsistent results. In other words, we have Judge A who says one result, Judge B under similar or perhaps even the same arguments decides result B, then we don't want that. So usually what happens, Commissioner Martin, is that the first case that's in that division, the other cases are conjoined into that particular case. So the likelihood is our case, even if we get a different division, will be pushed over into Judge Keim's division. That would be our anticipation.
Mr. Attorney, would it be advantageous for us to maybe pass a proclamation or a resolution stating that we are not supporting this, state the reasons, let Alachua fight the battle, and should it pass, go into initiating some lawsuit process after that?
We already have. We passed that at last meeting. So we passed a resolution of our opposition against it. We sent that resolution to High Springs, who passed it. I think they changed it a little bit. Scott could speak to that. I think Archer adopted that resolution. Micanopy also adopted that resolution. So we've passed the resolution of opposition. And just as a clarifying question, because I kind of agree with what Commissioner Martin was saying, but if we move forward, the city of Alachua has filed suit. The city of Archer has filed suit. The city of Newberry has filed suit. We would each have a seat at the table to make our arguments. They would be co-joined at the back end. Is that we're not joining at this moment, we're not joining the city of Alachua or the city of Archer. We're filing our own separate suit. You're just anticipating that somewhere down the line, we're going to be lumped together. Is that?
That's exactly what you just said, Mayor, is exactly what the anticipation is.
Does that answer your concern, Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, let's sue them.
Okay. Do I have any other comments or questions? Commissioner Coleman?
Yeah, let's sue.
Okay. Any other comments from the dais? Okay, at this point, I think we'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Martin?
I move to approve the recommendation, pass the resolution accordingly so that we can move to a lawsuit against the county.
Okay, hang on one second. I have a motion probably seconded. Dallas, our mic's out, our audio's out. Do we have an issue? I saw you trying to get my attention. Are we recording?
Mayor, my comment is to the motion on the floor. I would ask that the commission consider adding to the motion authorization to use contingency funds for this, for the expenses related with the lawsuit.
Okay, so maker of the motion, add that amendment.
So the comment was to add the language of using contingency funds to the motion, and I concur with the recommendation.
And the second concurs. So I have a motion from Commissioner Martin to move forward with the lawsuit, authorizing the manager to use contingency funds to fund it. I have it properly seconded by Commissioner Farnsworth. Questions, comments from the dais on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. Dallas, if you would put our telephone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the last item on our agenda. You may be looking at an agenda that has a 16 and a 17. Those were really one agenda item. Alachua County's charter amendment is the growth management area that the county is proposing. Your Newberry Commission has had a conversation about how that amendment is a gross overreach of home rule. It tramples on your rights to do what you will with your property and your land. There are many technical difficulties inherent in that charter language. And overall, it is simply an inability on the BOCC to work cooperatively with the municipalities. And this is an attempt at control where cooperation has failed. All of those comments being taken in sum, the city of Newberry has a motion properly second on the floor to join the city of Alachua and the city of Archer in suing. These would all be separate lawsuits, but in suing the BOCC in order to protect your rights to do with what you will with your property. If you'd like to call in and make a comment to the motion on the floor, all you need to do in order to be able to do that is dial the phone number that's on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little hand symbol. Simply click that hand symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to address the commission. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to do so. And we'll begin with our live members in the chamber. If you have any comments to this, feel free to come up to the podium now. If we have no live public comment, we'll go to virtual public comment. And that's been well over 30 seconds by my clock. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, legal, any final comments before we take, this is the first time in my tenure here that we've ever engaged in this activity. Any final comments before we move forward?
Well, we're always looking for resolution, Mr. Mayor, but the problem is that they put this on the agenda, they put it on to their ordinance, and they've taken a number of steps to put this before the voters, and they had an opportunity to not do that. It's kind of a black or white type situation. You either fight it or you let it go into effect. So there's not much room for resolution when you're placed into a situation like we are right now.
Thank you, sir. I completely agree. Okay, if there is no public comment or virtual comment, no hands raised, we will move to a roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. And that concludes our Part B. That's right. I apologize. We do. Mr. Newt, take.
Mr. Mayor, I'm also going to introduce this item and then pass it off to the city attorney's office who's done the legal research. But at our last meeting or the meeting before, the commission asked about how we might advocate against the referendum. And staff advised you that there was a state law that prevented us from using taxpayer dollars to advocate against a referendum item. City attorney's office has done some research and concluded that there is a path forward to that effect. It has to do with adopting an ordinance and a determination that it's in the public's best interest. I think it's best at this time for Scott or Rich to maybe give details and present information to the commission. And if it's then the commission's determination that they would like to pursue an ordinance, then staff recommends that we do this through a series of special meetings so that we can cut down on some timeframes and get to work as quickly as possible trying to use advertising and in the marketing world to educate the community voters as to why this is a bad amendment.
Okay, before I ask Scott to take us through that, you kind of got into it at the end, but what are you seeing, Mr. New, as how these, if we adopt this ordinance, are you talking commercials? Are you talking radio ads? I mean, what is the vision of what this, or is that what you wanted Scott to speak to?
No, specifically, I was going to ask the city attorney's office to kind of weigh in as to the path. I think that it opens up all of the media and the ways that you might try to market against something. I think that an effective campaign would be going on local radio shows with a Bob Rose or a Ward Scott. I think that social media, buying social media, I think potentially radio ads or television advertisements that effectively communicated the message of why this particular charter amendment might be bad for Alachua County. I think all those tools would be available at our disposal at that point.
Okay, thank you. Scott, go ahead and take us through this new finding, because this is a different path. The advice before was we couldn't go down this road. Tell us how we can.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to go back for just to take a couple of steps back and answer Commissioner Martin's question. What paths could we take that perhaps could be effective in this present situation? So we're pursuing, on the vote you just took, we're pursuing a legal path and saying that there's problems with this charter amendment, and legally speaking, it should be stopped. So that's where we go to the judge and we do all of that. So that's the piece we just finished. The second piece that to Mr. Martin's question is what else could be done, or what could be effective in this situation. And that's something that your manager is going to be able to ferret out over the next several weeks when we pass this ordinance. Of course, the ordinance takes a little while for us to get implemented. And the ordinance is directed to the ability for our city commission to educate our electorate and our citizens and to inform them of what this ordinance really does and inform them of what our lawsuit is all about. So it gives you the ability to expend public funds for that purpose. There's law out there that we talked about 30 days ago, a couple of weeks ago, that you can't advocate one side over another because some of your voters that spend public dollars or send their tax dollars into the city may be in favor of such an amendment. So some voters may be against it. So how can you take a position in respect to voters? You know, their tax dollar and the opposite side's tax dollars are both valid. So how does a city spend public dollars in that realm? But you can file a lawsuit and you can educate your voters as to what we believe is the proper scenario of what this particular charter amendment does. And that could take many, many different forms as we go on. And if you spend public dollars in doing that, there's an AGO opinion that is old, but we checked it and it is still good law. And if you pass an ordinance that says the public purpose for us taking up this matter with the citizenry is to educate the citizens as to what is going on, particularly with the lawsuit as well, then you're allowed to do that and you're allowed to spend public dollars. So this may take the form of, maybe it's just as simple, Commissioner Martin, as having a sign at the polling place and a booth and a table, and the sign is paid for by the city. Vote no on this particular amendment because it's problematic and it does harm to the home rule concepts of the Constitution of the state of Florida. Maybe it's something as simple as that. Perhaps it's a radio campaign or something that is more in the nature of TV campaign. That has yet to be determined as to what it is that you wish to do. This ordinance merely will give you the option or the ability to take a position on that sort of thing as we get closer. The effective date of this ordinance isn't going to be for another, almost 2 weeks. And so that's going to put us right into the middle of October, late October. So we'll have time to determine what exactly we want to do in this regard, but it does require an ordinance to do that. So that's basically, its foundation is an Attorney General opinion that was rendered some time ago, but it still has effectiveness. We researched that, and we also called the Florida League to make sure that our opinion was in keeping with the Florida League of Cities. And they said, yes, your reading, your research is correct, and we believe your analysis is correct as well. So that's the function of the ordinance. Interestingly, Archer is going to have their meeting for first reading of a very similar ordinance on October 5th. And so they're taking a procedure that's very similar to the procedure that you're undertaking as well.
And Scott, could you clarify for me? You may have said this, and I'm just not quite getting it. If this commission chooses this path and writes the ordinance, is it good in perpetuity, or is it written in to this particular issue?
It's this particular issue.
So if there's another issue in the future, they need to go through this process again.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Questions and thoughts on the commission on the ordinance? It would be the ordinance, not necessarily on any particular strategy. If we wanted to pursue a strategy, we would need the ordinance, and then we would have to go through 2 readings in order to accomplish that. Thoughts, questions, Commissioner Martin?
Well, I appreciate the attorney's input here. This is something that borderline is something that I'm very critical about the commission, about the county commission doing, and it's advocating for different legislation, whether it's a school board tax or wild spaces money and those sorts of things. So on the surface, I wouldn't be in favor of us spending city money, so to speak, on these sorts of things. I think all of us have a great social media input. I think we all have a pipeline to local media as well that wouldn't cost us anything. I'd rather probably go down that path, though the attorney and the manager's points are well taken at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Coleman.
I say go into a gunfight, you need to arm yourself with everything that you got. And so I'm totally for this.
Okay. And I would say, the ordinance doesn't mean the strategy. So you pass the ordinance to Commissioner Martin's concerns, which I share. I know we've all seen the BOCC spend who knows how much on all these signs that they put up about this road would be fixed, that kind of stuff. But if we just wanted to run a flyer through a PR firm just to make sure it's got the right color scheme or it's going to be attractive, that kind of thing. I think that I don't foresee this commission spending a lot of money here. I would see this commission just using this to advocate for staff to figure out some modest ways of how we can help the advertising and getting the message across, maybe a little bit of help in figuring out how to make this densely complicated issue palatable and understandable. Because I think that's a lot of times how the county wins on these kinds of things. It's so boring that nobody will tune in. It's so complicated, it's impossible to understand. So I just want to make, the ordinance can be a standalone separate decision, and then we could argue about how we use that or do not use that. But it's, we can't wait and then decide, well, we wish we had done that because there won't be enough time. So if this is something you want to have in your back pocket, we would need to get started on it fairly soon. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Coleman. I think we should use whatever means we have available to stop this tyranny.
Commissioner Clark?
Mr. Mayor, I say I'm an advocate for spending some money on going forward with this, but not without knowing what we're going to spend or how we're going to spend it. I'm just not sure. It's not unlimited, that's for sure.
No, and nobody's suggesting. I mean, I think what staff is saying is if this is something you want to have as an option, we got to write the ordinance first. Then that gives us the option. Then we have a whole separate other conversation about how much you want to fund it. What do you want to do? Do you want to do anything at all?
Yes, I'm an advocate for doing something let's make the ordinance and then we can go to what we're going to spend.
Okay. Commissioner Norfleet, any final thoughts?
No, I agree with Commissioner Coleman and Farnsworth that, put everything in your back pocket, and if you don't use it, you don't use it, but if you need it, you'll have it.
Okay, does someone want to put that into a motion? It also sounds to me like we're going to need to have an emergency meeting or two in order to make the timeline for this. Mike or Rich, you want to weigh in on do we need a motion at this point to move forward, or do we need to set a date and you guys will come back with an ordinance and we would?
Mr. Mayor, my recommended motion would be a motion for staff to bring back an ordinance for first and second reading, enabling the city commission to advocate against the county's charter amendment number 2. Staff proposes that meeting dates would be this Thursday. We call special meetings this Thursday, if that suits the commission, and then possibly Monday, I believe that's the 5th. So we could get our 2 readings and we'd be ready to go as early as Tuesday the 6th. Both meetings, staff recommends starting at 6 p.m. and we could conduct them by Zoom as long as the governor's orders don't prevent us from doing that.
Okay.
I won't be available next Monday.
You will or will not? Next, so this Thursday, one meeting this Thursday or first? And then we would, hang on one second, ladies and gentlemen, we're just having a little staff powwow here about our projected timeline.
Mr. Mayor, one thing I'd like to clarify is with the city attorney's office,
We advertise it.
the advertising requirement to me for ordinances that are related to planning require 10 days in a newspaper of general circulation. I don't believe that this ordinance requires 10 days notice nor notice in a newspaper of general circulation. I think 10 days, the way we normally notice our city commission meetings may be sufficient, but I think it'd be best if he weigh in on that.
It will require 10 days in advance of second and final reading. So, for example, Mike, if you wanted to set up your advertisement for the second and final reading on the 12th, if you advertised it in the Alachua Today, which is also, or the High Springs Herald, that is a newspaper of general circulation, and Alachua Today, I'm sorry. That is a newspaper of general circulation, and you could advertise for the 12th. Otherwise, you're going to have to advertise this one in the Gainesville Sun because it's a daily paper, of course.
So Scott, we could move forward with Thursday. We just have to be able to advertise it before the second reading. So we could
That's
have our
correct.
first reading this Thursday, second reading next Thursday.
No, you couldn't do it that quickly. It's going to have to, if you had your first reading on the 1st, the earliest possible date you could pass the resolution or the ordinance would be on the 12th.
So we could do the first reading on this Thursday and the second reading on our regularly scheduled commission meeting on the 12th.
That should work.
Okay. Let's finish this conversation first. So Ms. Judy, remind me, do we have a motion? Or we don't have a motion? Okay, so everybody knows the timeline. Everybody knows that this would just give the commission the ordinance. It wouldn't necessarily commit us to any strategy. It just allows us to continue having a conversation about a potential strategy if this commission wants. Is anyone ready to make a motion, or do we still have some questions? Commissioner Martin?
So as a matter of clarification, Scott, I'm hearing the other commissioners, and I think actually what I was talking about actually speaks more to the what to do about it, which is kind of the follow-up conversations, whereas this has more of the mechanics of being even able to have that to begin with, which is something I believe I actually would be in favor of that, but maybe not necessarily in the what to do about it later on. Am I understanding myself correctly?
You're stating it. This allows you to do something later if you choose, you collectively as a commission wish to do something. So that's what this ordinance does. And you may get to the point where you say, no, let's just let the legal system run its course. You may decide that you want to do something personally. You can spend your own personal dollars as you see fit. So you have that option. But if you collectively as a city commission and as a city want to educate the public, then this allows you a vehicle to do so.
Okay, are we ready to move towards a motion? Commissioner Coleman?
Yeah, you help me on it though. So ordinance to direct staff to
bring back.
Right, bring back the ordinance, and I guess I need to say the dates of this Thursday the 1st. Am I correct? And then October the 12th.
For second reading.
For second reading.
Okay, I have a motion to direct staff to draft this ordinance, bringing it back for first reading on the 1st of October, second reading on the 12th of October. That motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Okay. Any questions or comments from the dais on the motion on the floor? Okay, Dallas, if you put our phone number up. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an interesting conversation. This is item sub B to our conversation about the Alachua County Charter Amendment. It is possible for municipalities to spend tax dollars to educate the public about anything that has to do with potential public harm. We have a motion properly second on the floor to bring back the ordinance that would be necessary in order to allow this commission to have that conversation about whether they wanted to pursue that as a strategy or not. The motion was to direct staff to draft the ordinance, bring it back for first reading on October 1st, second reading on October 12th. If you'd like to call in and make a comment, or you have a question that you don't think we've hit upon in this conversation, you have the opportunity to do so now by dialing the phone number that's on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, all you need to do is click that little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen, and that will let us know that you'd like to make a comment to the commission or ask a question to the commission. We will start with our live public comment here in the chambers, and then we'll go to our virtual. Do we have any live public comment? Hearing none on live, we'll go to our virtual residents. Dallas, do we have anybody with their hand raised?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll go back to the commission. Roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth. Aye. Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet. Motion passes unanimously. And that brings us to the end of the agenda tonight and on to comments. We'll begin with City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The obvious, after 5 workshops and 2 city commission meetings, regular meetings, we're excited to begin our new budget year this Thursday on October the 1st. Also very excited to announce to the commission and our public, we are rolling out a new online building department application process. It is possible for folks wanting services from our building department to apply for, to pay for, to schedule inspections, to submit documentations, all of that, things that we used to do at the Little Red Schoolhouse. You could do it all online and never go to the Little Red Schoolhouse. It also should eliminate things like I can't I call, but no one answers the phones. Well, that's because we get 3 people calling and we have 1 person answering. And so 2 people get rolled over to voicemail. So we think that this is really going to be a boon. We've kind of been rolling it out 1 or 2 construction firms at a time, but we're getting very good feedback. We're working out the bugs for the first 4 to 6 weeks. But it's something I've heard our community and our elected body say they've wanted for a long, long time. And our new building official, Jim, has put forth a tremendous amount of effort to get this thing stood up in the last 2 to 3 months. And we're excited that we're going to start realizing the rewards of his efforts.
Before you move on, Mike, on behalf of the whole commission, please extend our gratitude to Jim. We know this was a huge endeavor.
It has been.
And it's going to be something that I think the whole town and every developer and every house appreciates. So please let him know how much we appreciate.
It's rolling out now. It started about 2 weeks ago. And as soon as we think we have it completely debugged and fully deployed, we'll actually do a 5-minute presentation at a city commission meeting, just to kind of give you the look and feel of it. The commission authorized moving of a part-time staff to full-time. That has already occurred. We had some funding available to do that. And she is currently taking all of our building application forms that are PDFs, but they're not PDF fillable online. And she's converting them to do that, so they dump directly into the database and there's no rekeying. So we're increasing our efficiency in handling these types of applications tremendously by the hard work of Jim and by the hard work of Sierra Crosswhite. Good to move on? Okay. Legislative agenda items. I know that's always a favorite topic for the commission when we throw out a big, long list. But it's that time of the year, actually trying to get ahead of it. They have not announced their legislative meeting, Alachua County, the local delegation meeting yet. But I did speak with Senator Perry. It's coming. And so we're going to try to get out front. We'll give you a list of ideas, but, we certainly welcome the commission to be thinking. I noticed, from last year's list, maybe 15 of them I thought were very good items for Newberry to pursue. All things that I've heard the community and the commission express interest in. We'll get that out this week. The community is aware, the commission is aware that Governor DeSantis issued Emergency Order 2244, which is a phase 3 reopening, which is allow all businesses in Florida to open, restaurants and bars at full capacity, several other things. We are looking into what that means for Zoom meetings, because the commissioner had given us permission, the governor had given us permission to conduct Zoom meetings through the end of September. So we're going to look, we still think there's potentially advantages for us to continue Zoom meetings moving forward. And so jury's still out on that, but we're researching all that order means and means to Newberry, and we'll disseminate that information once we've got a better handle on it.
Mike, can I interrupt you on one of my
Absolutely.
final comments? And I thought as we were saying we were coming back on Thursday, would it be reasonable to get an update in any detail on what the governor's new order means for Newberry this Thursday? I know I fielded a whole lot of questions from businesses that I'm not sure I'm getting quite right, and I'm trying to express that to them. But if we can get some feedback from you guys about what this actually means, to us.
Getting it perfectly right really depends on who you're talking to. That's what I've discovered. 3 people read the same exact order and they give me 3 different versions of what it means. So as long as that caveat is out there, we'd be happy to go through the order. It's a pretty brief order, and I think we have a pretty good handle on it. The one thing that we weren't particularly clear on was what it means for these digital or electronic meetings for our city commission. And my final item is to remind the city commission that on October the 15th at 11 a.m., we are conducting groundbreaking exercises for the IPEN extension offices here in Newberry. And I want to remind the commission, this is not about us attending a groundbreaking for Alachua County. We are a partner on this facility. This is a groundbreaking that we are asked to participate with the Alachua County Commission. It's one of those examples of the great teamwork that we have on certain issues. This has been a great project both for them and us, and a real opportunity for the city of Newberry to celebrate IPES extension offices coming to Newberry. It's Thursday, the 15th of October at 11 a.m. on site. So I think everybody has invitations. I think Amy has sent out calendar invites, but just wanted to keep it on everybody's forefront because we're looking for a good crowd. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Mike, is it, because I know we've had some confusion recently, is this a groundbreaking? Is this a wear boots kind of event? So there's going to be shovels, or is this a ribbon cutting kind of event?
That's a great question. This is a groundbreaking. This is boots and hard hats and gold shovels kind of event.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Manager gave us a whole lot. So anybody have any questions before I move on to other comment? Okay, we'll go to city attorney. Any comments tonight?
Nothing from the city attorney's office.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
None, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the commission. Commissioner Coleman?
Just let you know that my iPad's not keeping up. I'm at 2%. So when we go over to our next meeting, I'm going to be logging off and going to my phone. So
I'm glad you reminded me there was a meeting. I was getting all ready to walk out the door. So. Let's do our virtual commissioners first. Clark, do you have any comments for tonight? Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Norfleet? Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
Commissioner Martin? I have one question for Scott. Scott, what's the likelihood of High Springs filing suit against the county? Have you talked to them, anyone over there?
Mr. Mayor, I think the likelihood is very high.
Okay. Thank you.
I think they'll follow suit.
I appreciate that. I want to give a special public thanks to Senator Keith Perry and Representative Chuck Clemens. We were having some issues with some businesses that are opening up, trying to get some licenses through the state. It had nothing to do with us. They were both able to reach right in and help both of those businesses in a very timely manner. And both businesses have reached out and expressed how grateful they are. And I'm not sure who got to the right guy first, whether it was Keith or Chuck, but the two of them made a great team and were able to help out some of our local businesses. I also, and this is just sort of a last comment to leave on the night, you know, it occurs to me that every time something happens in the county, Gainesville and the BOCC have a joint meeting and they work out what it means amongst themselves. Then they tell everybody else. And the rest of the municipalities are kind of left to their own devices. You know, I know we have an Alachua County League of Cities, but that doesn't give us the opportunity to really in-depth as different boards. I don't know about the legality of having a joint meeting with the city of Alachua or a joint meeting with the city of High Springs. It seems like we have some things that we need to discuss being partners on. But that certainly may, and Scott may say, no, I'm sorry, you know, we can't go there. They can't come here. We'd have to figure out where we meet. But that may be a way to start, you know, more effectively working together as cities than we're sometimes able to do with the sporadic meetings that we have with the Alachua County League of Cities. And that will do it for my comments, public comment. Well, as Dallas puts our phone number up, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the meeting. Don't go anywhere. We have a Board of Adjustment meeting directly following this one. If you have any questions, comments, we set aside some time at the end of every night. You have a little bit longer period of time. If you have a more controversial topic you'd like to bring to the commission's attention, you have plenty of time to do so. All you need to do is dial the phone number on your screen. Once we get you into the meeting, you'll see a little hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. Simply click that symbol. That'll let us know that you'd like to make a comment. We'll make sure you have the opportunity to address the board. As we are giving you a moment to dial in, we'll start with our live residents in the chamber. Would you like to make any final public comments? Ms. Pay, all night long, you've bit your tongue, you've waited, you're here, it's after 10 o'clock. I love it. All right. Thank you for that rousing support. We appreciate it. You made it. You made it to the end. Okay, we will go back to virtual. Dallas, do we have anyone with their hand raised?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, but I have a public comment.
Okay.
I'd like to remind everybody that this Wednesday, September 30th, is the last day to self-respond for the 2020 census. Newberry's self-response rate is at 70.5%, which is higher than the rest of the state and most cities, but we'd love to see that number get higher. So if you have not responded to the 2020 census, please log on to my2020census.gov and fill out the quick questionnaire.
Excellent cause there, Dallas. Newberry is in the lead, and it's always great to beat Hawthorne. I'm going to keep saying that every time I have to remember wearing that shirt. We're just going to keep bringing it up. Let's beat Hawthorne in the census. Remind me our rules of procedure. We have to end our meetings by 10:30, but does that include the BOA, Miss Judy, or does the BOA, do we need a motion now to extend in order to get our BOA in tonight, or as long as the commission meeting ends before 10:30, the BOA is fine to move on? Quasi-judicial. And then make the motion. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. And we still have no other further public comment. Rich, were you going to weigh in on that?
We were just going to recommend that a motion be made to extend beyond 10:30.
Do you recommend me do it now in the commission meeting, or follow Mike's advice and start the BOA and do it there?
Do it when we start the BOA. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Well, then we are adjourned. All right. Pass this down.
Just turn one off at a time.
Yeah.
what you do this one, and I'm gonna go upstairs and do my thing. Oh, you know? Yeah. Life of a city lawyer.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda and extending the meeting time to when we get done with this Board of Adjustment meeting?
Second.
Do we need to have comments on this?
No, we don't.
Commissioner comments? Is there any public comment?
Oh,
We gotta
I'm-
wait for the 30 seconds for the Zoom comment. I don't have the big vocabulary that you have as a teacher, you know. So, any comments, Dallas? All right. So we get a roll call. Commissioner Coleman back up. He's not. Commissioner Coleman?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So do you vote to approve the agenda?
Yes.
Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Clark?
Here.
Vote to approve the agenda?
Aye.
And Commissioner Martin?
Aye, sir.
All right, so need a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting from July 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner comments? Public comments? Or one public comment? So, any comments? Dallas? So, move to a vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
All right. New business for tonight, a petition to allow the rear setback of lot 28 in Country Way, phase 1 to 3 foot, 2 inches instead of 10 foot from the property line. City attorney, want to walk us through that?
Absolutely, Chair Norfleet. I'll read through our quasi judicial proceedings. We're in a quasi judicial hearing. I'll explain the rules concerning the testimony, which is primarily that the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the board makes a decision. All public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of the record. We'll first hear from staff with an overview, and then we'll hear from the applicant. We'll go through, we'll give all those who wish to speak an opportunity. Do we have any participants tonight who intend to offer any evidence or testimony? If so, we'll swear them in at this time. Let's see. Ms. Wendy, will you be presenting on behalf of staff this evening?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so we have Wendy. Is there anybody else? If you could raise your hand function. If you're virtual, we can see you. Let's see, I don't see anyone. Dallas, do you see anyone?
No, there's nobody with their hand raised.
Okay.
Okay.
There may be someone, the applicant, who was planning on attending, but they may not have realized it would go this late. But
Okay. Did we don't have anybody here on behalf of the applicant?
she, Michelle Jones was planning on attending and indicated that she would be.
Rich, I was I'm obviously as the liaison on the P&Z, I can at least relate what the applicant said when she presented to the P&Z. That's certainly not as good as the applicant him or herself. Should we perhaps consider moving this, tabling this until we can get to it before 10:30 at night?
The commission can certainly, or the Board of Adjustments could certainly entertain a motion if that is the preference.
Yes, sir. Mr. Martin.
I move to table the motion at this time until we can get back with the applicant to get a more usable time for them to come back before us.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments on that? Any public comments? Take it to a vote for Commissioner Coleman to table this until a later date when the can participate.
Mr. Chair, if you continue this or table this, if you do it to a time certain within 6 weeks, then we can avoid having to have an additional advertising charge for the applicant.
So do we need to just put the date on this to the next commission meeting on the 12th?
Sure. That would, and we'll let them know and make sure that she knows to attend no matter what.
Do we need to amend your motion to that date?
I'll happily amend my motion to reflect that, Chair.
Second.
All right. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
All right, any comments? Anything else? I adjourn this meeting.